disappointing performance for the 49ers today. Again, the final score 22-17. We can get into the offense, the defense, the issues, the turnovers, all of that. But just flat out, this is a game the Niners should be able to win. And they simply didn't. 22-17, the final score. A disappointing last 8 days now for the 49ers. 2 consecutive losses.
I had my whole opening statement pre-planned coming into this game.
Uh-oh.
I wasn't here last week, Mark, and you were the only person here when the Niners lost to the Browns. We're going to beat the Vikings.
You're going to blame it all on me, huh?
I was. And now I'm sitting here, and I'm watching a disgusting, pitiful, horrid. The Niners did not come to play today from the opening jump. Yes, they got a pick early, but the offense fumbles. CMC, you battled through the oblique. I'm happy for you. What do? Get in the red zone. You fumble. The same things that haunted this team against the number one defense in 53-plus years in the Browns last week are the same things that haunted them this week. Brock Purdy now has 3 picks, 2 in this game, 2 pivotal drives, both them ending with Brock Purdy interceptions. Just a bad performance from almost anybody. Now I'm sitting here worried, okay, the offense didn't even score 20 points last week. Great defense, whatever. Didn't score 20 points this week against a mediocre at best defense in the Vikings. I get you had the injuries, but you can't. It was as if San Francisco said, lock it up, it's in the bag, don't even got to try. You just lost 2 games in a row. You're now 1 game behind Philadelphia. Mark, I'm sick. I'm sick right now. This should have been an easy win for San Francisco, and they lost to primetime Kirk Cousins?
And you're only half game up on the Seahawks in the NFC West, Sterling. I don't think interesting is the right word. I mean, maybe. If you're a 49er fan, obviously you want your team to win every single game. You want to wrap up the division by Thanksgiving, if not earlier. Like, that would be fantastic. You want the 1 seed. You don't want any drama. You don't want to have to play Week 17, Week 18. You want to be able to relax and get ready for the postseason. These last 2 losses, hey, this team isn't world beaters. They're not going to just run. Remember, I mean, the discussion after Week 5 when they dominated the Cowboys was, well, how long is this undefeated stretch going to last? Yeah. Could they do what Brady couldn't? Could they have a perfect season?
At least make it to the bye week? You lose 2 games in a row. Mark.
This game, for me, a tale of a couple of halves, because if you asked me at halftime, obviously disappointed with the score at halftime. It was 16-7.
Shouldn't have been.
Shouldn't have been, 100%. I thought the offense was fantastic in the first half. I mean, every single time with the ball, they drove down the field. There was the fumble, Christian McCaffrey on the first drive. You had a missed 40-yard field goal by your rookie kicker, Jake Moody. We can talk about that later on. Is that becoming an issue? He later made a 55-yard field goal in a really big moment, which, by the way, I did not expect Kyle Shanahan to make that call. I thought he was going to go for it on, I think it was 4th and 4 at that point. 55-yard field goal, Moody makes it. And then after that, you get in to the end zone and, towards the end of the first half or your first points of the game to make it 10-7. The offense had moved the ball really every single time they had the ball, and that continued into the second half. Their opening drive didn't get points, but beyond that, they moved the ball when they had it. It's just once they got into enemy territory, Brock Purdy threw a couple of interceptions. So you can feel okay about the offense despite that it was only 17 points because they moved the ball a lot. They put up a lot of yards against this defense. To your point, it's not a very good defense, but they still moved the ball, but they're not scoring points. Turnovers, missed field goals.
How many red zone trips the past 2 games have they either gotten just a field goal or nothing? It feels like almost every single time. Okay.
One, their only touchdown, or they had 2 touchdowns today.
CMC.
Christian McCaffrey 3-yard run, so that was
the red zone.
That was in the red zone, but the other touchdown was the McCaffrey 35-yard catch and run. That was not a red zone possession.
But even then, it's again, I don't want to go back to the Browns game, but there were a handful of opportunities in that game where you miss a field goal, you fumble the football, you don't get the ball, or there's a penalty, it doesn't go your way, it moves your offense back, and then you fumble again, and then you miss a field goal. This game, it was, we can't even get into the red zone against the 16th ranked defense that had 2 cornerbacks entering this game with 100+ passer ratings on a defense that look, the Vikings deserve a ton of credit. Kirk Cousins was damn near perfect today.
He was incredible today.
All the talk of primetime Kirk Cousins as it being a joke today.
Take out that interception on the 3rd play of the game. I mean, he looked like Pat Mahomes out there, the way he was making some of these throws.
Kirk Cousins looked like, I don't want to say a franchise quarterback, but there's a reason, at least tonight, he earned that paycheck he's getting. But my bigger concern is the fact that the offense isn't scoring when they need to. They're not getting touchdowns, or if they are getting points, it's field goals or needing a Christian McCaffrey 23-yard catch and run. But this defense has been or was awful tonight. They missed 10 tackles against the Browns last week. It felt like they missed 20 against the Vikings tonight.
Well, every time we could talk about Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, I thought that the strategy in the first half defensively was to bring pressure. And that's one thing that Steve Wilks has done differently than past Niner defenses. D'Amico Ryans, Robert Saleh, they tended to not blitz a ton. Steve Wilks does. And in the first half, they were blitzing, and somehow they still weren't getting to Kirk Cousins. And Kirk was picking them apart as a result. I mean, if you're bringing an extra defender or two on a blitz, you're not getting home. You're just asking your defensive secondary to do the impossible, cover receivers without many guys defending them for a long period of time, and Kirk Cousins was picking them apart. I think they adjusted a little bit in the second half. You just saw more just normal four-man rushes, not bringing an extra blitzer, and they actually got towards Kirk Cousins a little bit more in the second half.
But no sacks.
No sack. There was one play, the very last drive for...
He was like sandwiched in between two guys and just squeaked out of there.
Huge play. Was it third down at that point?
It was third down. A huge
third and four,
down.
I think. Something like that.
Yeah.
And Cousins drops back to pass. If you get a first down at that point, at the very least, you're going to give the Niners the ball with less than a minute on the clock at that point, essentially.
Which happened anyways.
It happened anyway, but as a result, because they got the first down.
Yes.
And he drops back to pass, and Nick Bosa seems like he's hugging him, but there's an offensive lineman in between Cousins and Bosa. Bosa trying to run over both of them and bring them to the ground. He can't. Cousins escapes, makes a throw. I think it fell incomplete, but there was a penalty called anyway. And it resulted in a first down for the Vikings.
No, that's the play where Addison catches the ball. They call a flag on San Francisco. Penalty declined.
You're right.
They still stop the
You're
clock.
right.
SF somehow finds a way to stop the clock, and they get a chance to
I'm
win.
thinking of another play.
But that's how bad the game was. It felt like every drive for the Vikings was something bad was happening for San Francisco on defense. Warner was missing tackles. We paid Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, all this money. Somebody sack immobile Kirk Cousins, please. This Vikings O-line is fine. Kirk Cousins came into tonight sacked 15 times. This star-studded defense and their pass rush had zip, zero, nada, cero. Whatever language you want to use, it equals nothing. We're paying players big-time money to show up when? No sacks tonight. They had one pick, and then Mooney Ward gets called for like 5 penalties later. We need, someone has to step up. Brock Purdy for 3.5 quarters was doing so. Christian McCaffrey, 2 touchdowns tonight, was doing so. Kittle had a nice game as well on National Tight Ends Day. This defense, it's troubling. Philadelphia would put up 35 against what they did tonight. The Vikings had 452 yards of offense.
Okay, so my question to you is, and to all the listeners out there, I see a couple of them calling in already. We want to hear from you. 888-957-9570. You just laid out the case against the defense. Gave up a ton of yards against a team with, okay offense, but they're playing without the best receiver in football, Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins, not a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, despite the fact that coming into today, his team only had 2 wins, has been putting together a really good season, and he was fantastic today. 378, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on the first drive. But aside from that first drive, he was nearly perfect in this game. That's the case against the 49ers defense. They were beat by rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison, 7 for 123 and 2 touchdowns. One really terrible moment late in the first half.
Sure, Lucas is happy. Fight on, right, Lucas? Fight on.
We can get into that later as well. But, the offense as well, you're able to move the ball, but you sputter. You turn the ball over. 3 turnovers, all in Minnesota territory. What's more troubling to you? What's more concerning, the offense or the defense? You consider the last 2 weeks, the Cleveland defense is phenomenal, but the offense really was stuck in the mud all game long. I know there's some other circumstances going on there.
But at least there was an excuse. No Trent Williams, no Debo. What was the excuse for the defense tonight? Everybody's healthy. Everybody. No one's hurt. We don't have Nick Bosa. We don't have Hargrave. They all played the entire game. and they gave up 452 yards.
So defense is a bigger concern for you. Yeah, I think I'm with you.
It's not even close. Brock Purdy made some mistakes. Fine. Okay, cool. Maybe that conversation turns around and he's not as good as we once thought he was.
Turnovers,
he lost 2 straight games in a row, 2 bad picks on 2 pivotal drives. But the defense missed 10 tackles last week, felt like 20 tonight. Against the Browns, without Nick Chubb, 160 rushing yards on the ground. Tonight, 74, 78, whatever it is. This team, against a Vikings offense that runs the ball the least in football, was able to run against this defense that has these strong, touted names. You pay for, again, the Armsteads and the Hargraves to make sure teams like Minnesota, who already can't run against you, and they did tonight.
Yeah, at some point, and you can PFF advanced stat analytics someone to death, right? And that's been the way we've talked about Nick Bosa this season, right? Like, not many sacks.
Number 1 run defender in football.
He's not getting to the quarterback a lot, but guess what? He's taking on double teams. He's freeing up his teammates. He's great against the run. I think the conversation at some point, maybe that point is right now, it has to shift to, hey, Nick, you got to get Kirk once or twice in this game. You had that opportunity on that last drive. You were an arm length away. You have to find a way to make that play. Maybe it's unfair, but Nick, when you win a Defensive Player of the Year award, when you are the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, you got to make a play like that every once in a while. And he hasn't yet this season on a consistent basis. So maybe it's unfair. Maybe I'm overreacting to this game and this loss and the frustration of consecutive losses now. But I think at some point, Sterling, and I'd argue that time is now, the conversation around Nick Bosa has to shift. You can't just be PFF's favorite child. You can't just be the advanced analytic king. You gotta dominate in those sexy stats, which are the sacks, the tackles for loss, and he hasn't done that yet. This game was begging for a Nick Bosa strip sack, and it never happened. If the Niners get one of those, who knows? They probably can come away from this game with a win. Maybe it's not fair to single out Nick Bosa because he's still a fantastic player. But considering what he's making, Sterling, I think the Niners were hoping that they'd get a little bit more from him to this point of the season.
But it's not even a Bosa problem, because against the Browns, he could have had a fumble recovery for a touchdown had it not been called an incomplete pass. He had a sack in that game as well. It's a collective issue where guys aren't tackling. There's way too many penalties and pivotal points this year. It feels like, big third down stop, holding on the defense, illegal contact on Mooney Ward and Lenore or DPI.
There's one on Isaiah Oliver on that last drive.
Can we please stop shooting ourselves in the foot? Because since 2019, Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, what was the whole thing of when you go to San Francisco, you face them, you're getting the number 1 defense in the league, you're getting a vaunted pass rush, you're getting 2 stellar linebackers, and maybe a secondary that isn't that great, but they got a piece or two they can really hurt you. They still have all those players, all that personnel, but the outcome is entirely different. The Vikings had beaten the Bears by 1 score and would not have done so if they didn't get a defensive touchdown. They beat the Panthers. They beat the 2 worst teams in football.
To be fair, their losses are all 1-score losses. Yeah, they're better than their record suggests. It's the opposite of last year when they were nowhere near as good as their record suggested.
But here's the issue. The Niners are supposed to be the cream of the crop.
Oh, they should win this game. 100%.
No. In the entire NFC, we're talking lock them up for Vegas, folks. NFC Championship, Philadelphia, bring it on. And now it's like, we can't even beat the Vikings in prime time when you had a whole week to prep without Debo and without Trent Williams, which we'll get to that. That was a massive loss tonight. But you have Christian McCaffrey. He's supposed to unlock the entire offense. Shanahan had no answers tonight for what Brian Flores was doing to him on offense. Nothing. It was,
they moved the ball.
They didn't score. You have the greatest offensive mind in this league today outside of Andy Reid, and you can't score more than 20 points against...
You putting this on Shanahan?
Not all of it, but certainly
his star running back fumbled in the red zone, and his quarterback threw 2 terrible interceptions. You putting this on Shanahan?
You drafted it in the 3rd round, missed a field goal for the 2nd week in a row, and almost cost you a game again.
Okay, that's fair.
Go get
the offense moved the ball... And the players
failed to score.
And the players that you trust turn the ball over. It's as simple as that.
It's not just on Shanahan. Players have to execute. But Shanahan wasn't great in this game. The players you need to have win weren't great in this game for the second week in a row. The defense was atrocious. I could argue for, the entire game from the jump. They had one good play on defense, and that was it. They got an interception. Well, the offense do get no points. You have to capitalize against the mediocre, vanilla Vikings team, and you don't on prime time. You had an extra day to prep for this game, and you laid a freaking egg, my guy. Like, you want to be talked about with Philadelphia and, Dallas Cowboys. I get you, rock Dallas. That game means nothing now. We're not riding those coattails anymore. You lost to the Browns without their starting quarterback, without their left guard, without their star quarterback. And you lose to the Vikings, who don't have their star receiver. We all talk about, the Browns don't have their players. The Vikings don't have their star. Easy to the bye. Oh, wow. 8-0. Here we come. You lose 2 games in a row. What a joke. It's a joke. I'm not happy, Mark.
I understand. I am not putting any of this blame on Kyle Shanahan today. Absolutely none of it. Let's look at some of the numbers offensively. I know that it didn't turn into a ton of points. I get it. But this team, 325 yards of total offense, they averaged over 6 yards per play. 6 yards per play. Everything Kyle was drawing up was working. The run game wasn't incredible in this game. 65 rushing yards. That's not very good. Only 3 per carry. Okay, maybe I could say got to be a little bit more creative in the run game, although I think some of that is difficult to do when you don't have Deebo Samuel because he's a big part of your creativity in that phase of the game. But every single pass play they drew up, for the most part, there was an open guy. And Purdy, for the most part, found him. He was 21 for 30. A number of those incompletions came late.
He was great for 3.5 quarters.
He was really good. Yeah, I'm with you.
2 biggest drives he failed.
21 for 30, 272, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. So I would ask you again. You just said Purdy failed in the final 2 drives. What about that puts this on Kyle Shanahan?
No. I'm not saying it's all on Kyle Shanahan. Steve Wilkes, the defense deserves...
It's way more on Steve Wilkes than the defense.
80% of the blame tonight.
Failed to adjust to the fact that the blitz wasn't working for the entire first half. Kirk Cousins was picking them apart left and right. Jordan Addison was getting behind the defense. They brought a blitz on that touchdown at the end of the first half when Jordan Addison ripped the interception away from Mooney Ward and ran 60 yards for a touchdown. You're bringing a blitz when you know the only chance the Vikings have to score with 15 seconds left in the first half is to throw a deep ball down the middle part of the field. You bring a blitz, you have no safety help against one of the speediest receivers in the league, Jordan Addison. What are you doing? What are you doing? Kyle Shanahan doesn't even hit my top 10 of guys that deserve blame for this loss. He's nowhere near. He's not even on my radar. There's so much else blame to go around. For me, it's not even close to Shanahan. This is about the defense. It's about Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey turning the ball over in key moments. And as far as I'm concerned, Shanahan and the offense looked great until they turned the ball over.
Yeah, but it's when you turn it over.
I agree.
The offense turned the ball over 3 times tonight.
All on the Vikings side of the field.
Yeah. That's not entirely on Kyle Shanahan. Of course, players have to execute. My issue is that in looking at their offense, 30 against Pittsburgh, 30 against the Rams, 30 against the Giants, 35 against the Cardinals, 42 against the vaunted Dallas Cowboys defense. Then you got 17 against the Browns. Okay, 1 week it was raining, wash it away, you missed a field goal, could have had the win. Then 17 against the Vikings. The Vikings are not going to the playoffs. They're not that good. They've only beaten 2 teams, the Bears and the Panthers. I get it. They're better than the record says. Took the Chiefs and the Eagles down to 1 score. They are the, again, 1 score tonight. The Vikings are not that good, or at least, I'll rephrase that. The Vikings should not be able to hold the candle to the San Francisco 49ers, and they beat them tonight.
Especially the Vikings without Justin Jefferson.
Yes!
Especially the Vikings without Justin Jefferson. I know you could say, well, the Niners are without Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams. Yeah, whatever. The Niners are on a different level talent-wise across the entire rest of the roster.
Even with backup tackles and no Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's go to the phone lines. We've got a ton of people lining up here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Yeah, Sterling needs some help. He needs some emotional support from the listeners here on 95.7 The Game. Up first, we'll go to Manny. Manny, you're on Overtime with Randy and Sterling on 95.7 The Game. A tough loss for the 49ers. Manny, what'd you think of this one?
You know what? This is a sign of times to come, my friends. I called it. I said the defense is leaking, and it's continually leaking. There is a problem on this Niners squad, and it's solely on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, we can move the ball. We can get in position to score. First of all, number one, what is Robbie Gould's phone number? I will call him personally myself because, Moody, you are done. You are done, young man. You need to go to the practice squad, and you need to sit down and learn from the best. We need help on special teams. Let's get that straight right now. But more importantly, defensively, if the defense does not shore it up, and we've got, Cincinnati and Jacksonville coming around, we are listing in the water badly. I mean, there is no absolutely way we should have lost this game. The hole in my wall where my tablet got thrown is a testimony to how futile this game was. I mean, thank God NFL Network kept freezing on my tablet, because if it didn't, I would have lost my mind half an hour ago. I mean, come on. Niners, defensively, we cannot let mediocre offenses run up and down the field on us if we expect to even get into a wild card game. I mean, we're getting figured out in the worst time possible, early in the season. And I don't know where the blame absolutely lies on, but you know what? It points to the guy who took over for the guy who took over for the guy. We need to figure it out. They need to figure it out. And that's all I got. If the defense doesn't figure it out, sooner or later, we're wasting the season, man. We need to start looking at trades at corner, at defensive line, and Nick Bosa, I love you, but you're no better than your brother.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Manny. Appreciate the call. I think most of what you said is valid.
Besides the last part. But
yeah, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. I don't know about that one. Ask Charger fans how they feel about it.
Healthier, I'll tell you that one.
Ask Charger fans how they feel about Joey Bosa. I think you'll get a very, very different answer than how Niner fans feel about Nick Bosa, even after the last couple of weeks here for the 49ers. The other thing is, I disagree with Manny. This is not the worst time of the season to get figured out.
No.
You have a ton of season ahead. This is not sky is falling. Now we have to adjust the. You might disagree there. This is not sky is falling for me. Maybe you have to adjust your expectations a little bit. Maybe you're certainly in a dogfight for not only the top seed in the NFC. Now you're a game behind the Eagles, but you're only
in front of the Eagles.
Huh?
We're in front of the Eagles. Oh, excuse me.
Behind the Eagles. The Eagles are ahead.
I'm just going to stop talking.
But you're also only a half game ahead of the Seahawks for the NFC West. So you're in a dogfight, again, not just for the top seed in the NFC, but suddenly the West standings are getting a little bit crowded. The Rams lost this week. They're upset about that one to the Steelers. But despite the struggles for the Niners, it still seems like it's just a two-team race.
It made me a little happier. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. I'm here. Again, all the callers were trying to provide some emotional support for Sterling. I'm sure a lot of you are feeling the same way. So this is...
I left for a week. It was like, going to come back. Niners are going to win. And now I'm sitting here. I got tears in my water, Mark.
This is Niners group therapy. Niners fan group therapy here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. So if you need some emotional support, give us a call, 888-957-9570. We're also keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats powered by First NorCal Credit Union, as always, and the text line, the Comcast Business text line as well. Keep them coming on all fronts. But this is not the wrong time of the season, in my mind, to be figured out. You have a ton of season ahead of you. Remember how the last two seasons went for the 49ers. You struggled big time early. 5, you ask those two teams, those last two Niner teams, would you like to be 5-2 after 7 games? They would say, hell freaking yes.
Good point.
Now, it's a little more difficult to swallow when you were 5-0. You were on top of the world. People were talking about an undefeated regular season, and now you have losses against two subpar teams dealing with injuries. Yeah, I mean, a third-string quarterback, and now you have a Vikings team playing without really their only dynamic offensive weapon and the most dynamic offensive weapon in football in Justin Jefferson. So I get the frustration. Yeah. All I'm saying is, deep breath. It's week 7. These Niners teams that made it to the NFC Championship game each of the last 2 years were in much worse positions at this point in the season than this current team is. Now, it's not to say that we can't discuss what went wrong and why this team is frustrating us and why we have some concern moving forward, because clearly we do.
Yes.
All I'll say is there's a ton of season left.
To the caller's point, though, and yes, I would agree that you start 5-2, season is not over. In fact, you're in a pretty good spot.
You're in a great spot.
With you. But you have the Bengals next week. They didn't play this week. They had a bye. Now you're going back home with your tail between your legs, and you ain't getting Debo back, and you might get Trent Williams back. Okay, Trent Williams certainly was missed tonight against the Vikings blitzing defense. Then you have the bye week. Okay, you might be able to get healthy and play Jacksonville in 2 weeks on the road in Florida, up on the East Coast, or just down on the East Coast. But other than that, you have the Bengals, then you got Jacksonville, and you got Seattle in Seattle, you got Philadelphia in Philadelphia, and you got to come back home and play Seattle. It's not as if the schedule gets easier. So when you see teams, when you're 5-0, we can beat the Browns. Yeah, they have the third-string quarterback. Oh, yeah, we should win that game. Then it's the Vikings, no Jefferson. Oh, man, we're getting some good luck on our side. Then it's, we lost to both those
but
teams.
But nothing to show for it, yeah.
And then we have the Bengals who have seemingly picked things up, and then we got the Jaguars who look pretty darn good right now, and then that doesn't even count that 3-game stretch of Seattle, Philadelphia, Seattle, which you would like to have put yourself in a position where your division, maybe even the conference, doesn't come down to that 3-game stretch. But right now, at this very point, at 5-2 after week 7, the division, the conference could very well come down to that 3-game stretch, that's where you don't want to be.
Yeah.
The Niners put themselves in a great position after 5 weeks. Through 7, not so great.
Yeah, you kind of killed your great start. Now you're kind of back to square one.
Momentum is gone. You don't have your star receiver. Where the heck was Brandon Ayuk tonight? This is a pivot.
A great first quarter and a half, and then did he have a catch in the second half?
I don't even care. I didn't hear his name.
I don't think he did.
All I saw him on the bench the whole game. Let
me look it up.
On the bench.
I have their halftime stats written down on
when you don't have Debo and you got Jawan Jennings and McLeod and you want to get the bag, Ayuk. You were great when they were all on the field. You want to get the bag, and he's a good receiver. Tonight, certainly didn't prove to be the guy. Like, you're supposed to slice and dice through this soft zone blitzing coverage. This is a game where Brandon Ayuk's strengths should be able to bloom like a flower. In fact, it died in the first half. It got stomped on, choked out, and was like, where the heck is our star receiver at?
Brandon Ayuk in the first half, 5 catches for 57 yards. Brandon Ayuk in the second half.
Nothing.
Goose egg.
Dude, and right there, when McCaffrey picks things up and Kittle picks things up, and even Jawan Jennings.
Jawan Jennings was
great tonight. You would like to have your star receiver.
5 for 54 for Jennings.
You need to have your star receiver out there.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, had Ayuk missed this game and Debo was healthy, a much better game than this, and I bet they win this game.
Wow.
Yeah, because you want to know why he affects the play. He affects the offense in so many other ways than Ayuk does.
Well, the other thing, I think it was the drive where the Niners settled for the 55-yard field goal, which Jake Moody made. To his credit, we have to give him credit for that. I honestly have to give Kyle Shanahan credit for having the courage to bring out his kicker after he missed his last 2 field goal attempts and 3 over the last game and a half at that point. He brought him out for a 55-yard field goal, but before that was Brock Purdy facing pressure, rolling to the left, and kind of threw across his body back to the other side of the field to an open Ayuk. Credit Purdy for finding him.
Come back to it.
But Ayuk, instead of running through the ball to make the catch, because Purdy's throwing it, if you're watching it on YouTube, off of his back foot, right? Can't get enough behind the ball.
So he leaves
it short to Ayuk. Ayuk had the time to run into that ball and make the catch. He stood there, bent down on a knee, took a knee, and tried to reach out for it instead of moving forward and catching it. That cost the 49ers a first down. Yeah, they got a field goal out of it, but it could have potentially been 7 instead of 3. That might change this game. Ayuk, a goose egg in the second half. That's a big reason why this offense wasn't able to get the touchdowns when they needed them. Their number 1 wide receiver gave them nothing in the second half.
Whose fault is that? Is that Ayuk's? Is that Kyle's? Is that Purdy's?
I'd have to grind the tape to answer that question.
You got to go back to the tape and figure it out.
Wait till that All-22 comes out, then I'll give you an answer.
What does PFF say?
They say Nick Bosa's Incredible.
Best run defender in football. No sacks tonight when you need him most.
Let's go back to the phone lines here. It's overtime on 95.7 The Game. Grandy and Sterling with you. A tough loss for the 49ers. It's a Niners fan group therapy here on overtime on 95.7 The Game. Up next is Buzz from Concord. Buzz, you're on overtime. What'd you think of that Niners loss today, Buzz?
I mean, hey, it's a rough night. Rough night to be a Niners fan. I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around, but I think sometimes the blame doesn't go around correctly. Yes, Nick Bosa doesn't get those sacks. Double teamed, multiple stunts he was picked up on. Defensive players, Ufanga, amazing. Definitely Fred Warner had his issues. Ward has his issues. Definitely 2 picks on Purdy. We're going to blame him on that. My biggest blame on this entire game, we're going to go with Wilkes on this one right now.
Yeah.
Steve Wilkes is going to come in here, be a defensive coordinator. We're going to complain about how all this defensive issues goes on. However, D'Amico Ryan, Robert Saleh had similar players to this. Obviously, Hargraves here. Multiple players have been in and out, but the mainstays have been there. However, Steve Wilkes is going to be dropping the ball in this game. I want to blame everybody I can. I like to blame Purdy on this. Steve Wilkes get my entire blame. I also want to say Bosa, don't get me wrong, he doesn't get the sacks, but as you also want to say, can't get a sack on a running play. So when you say can't get a running play with a sack, it's only going to be on those passing plays there. Have a great night, guys. Love the show.
Thanks, Buzz. Appreciate the call.
It's a cool name, Buzz.
Yeah, and I think he's right. I mean, if you were to single out...
Take me to space, Buzz. Come on, Aldrin. It's a great name. It's a great name.
You good, Sterling?
I'm good.
I think if you had to single out a specific person, or I mean, it's obviously the defense, and we both agree about that, as opposed to the offense. Offense, 3 turnovers, inexcusable. You can't have that. You're not going to turn the ball over 3 times and win that many football games. But the defense just getting gashed by an offense that's playing without Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. And they're starting left guard.
And you even go back to last week, 3rd string quarterback. You don't really respect the Browns' passing game at all, and yet somehow the Browns were still able to gash you time and time again on the ground. Like, this is consecutive
160 yards last week.
Consecutive weeks where you leave, and more so tonight, of course, than the Cleveland game, but consecutive games where you leave feeling like the defense wasn't just not good, but they were actively bad?
They were
specifically tonight.
They were the reason they lost. I do think if you're going
the offense has to convert more once they move the ball. Yeah, I mean, considering how terrible the yards, I mean, you just look at the yards in this game. 452 yards of offense for Minnesota. They averaged nearly 7 per play. You put up 450 and about 7 per play, you should be expecting to score 35 points. The fact that this was only a 22-point output, it's pretty remarkable.
Yes.
I don't know if that is credit to the defense because they still gave up 452, but only 22 points.
But it's not even about that. The Vikings came in, and maybe I can check my phone for it. The Vikings came in today with one of the worst 3rd down conversion rates in football. One of the worst.
And they were 8 for 13 today.
61%. They had 34% on 3rd down coming into this game. 61% exiting. You want to talk about what makes a great defense. It's getting off the field on 3rd down. It felt like drives were 10 plays long and 6-7 minutes long, 75 yards. They marched down 89 yards on this so-called number 1 defense. And to O'Connell's credit, to Cousins' credit, at halftime or before half said, we're not going to just take a knee and call it a night and go into the half up. They said, we're going to take a shot, and if we fail, we fail. Now, Mooney Ward almost had the pick, but why are you 0 blitzing? Why?
Yeah, I don't get that
Just play prevent. At least give him the field goal. Guess what? If you hold him to a field goal, you can kick a field goal tonight and win the game. This game tonight, I'm not going to say it hinged on that drive, but that was the biggest score of the game right there.
A huge momentum shift because the Niners just got into the end zone.
You're just out of reach.
You're thinking like, all right, outplayed the entire first half. An unfortunate fumble in the red zone by McCaffrey.
You get a touchdown.
You get a touchdown. We're down 3 at halftime.
The offense
and guess
answers
what?
the call.
And guess what? We get the ball out of the halftime break. You can go down, score, and take the lead in a game where you had been thoroughly outplayed for 2+ quarters. But instead, you give up a touchdown going into halftime. Instead of being down 10-7, you're down 17-7, although they missed the extra point. So 16-7. And then the offense comes out, They don't score. They don't do anything offensively their first possession of the second half. The Vikings then go down the field, and they get a field goal. So they add on to their lead. Suddenly, you're down by 12 points when you could have potentially had the lead out of halftime if you got a score to begin the second half. So that was a gigantic moment. But you just look at the drive log for Minnesota. After the first drive, where Kirk Cousins threw an interception on the third play of the game, Minnesota, their next 5 drives, so drives 2 through 6 for Minnesota in the game.
I'm going to cry harder, Mark.
I'm going to make you cry, Sterling.
No.
You ready?
Tell me.
Second drive of the game, 10 plays, 89 yards, touchdown.
Jeez.
Next drive, 13 plays, 67 yards, took 7 minutes and 20 seconds off the clock, field goal. Next drive to close the first half, 5 for 75 and a touchdown. To open the third quarter, 11 plays, 77 yards and a field goal. And then the final drive of this 5-drive stretch, 10 plays, 50 yards, and a field goal as well. That was all of the points for Minnesota except for that field goal on their final drive, which put them up by 5. Niners ultimately turned the ball over after that. But those 5 drives consecutively, Sterling,
killed us.
The Vikings got almost everything they could possibly ask for offensively.
The fact is, DeMeco Ryans had this exact same defense minus 2 players. They had no Hargrave last year and had Jimmy Ward playing nickel. That's really the only difference.
And you could argue maybe that this unit in total more talent. I mean, Hargrave up front.
You have Jackson, Gregory now, Clelin Ferrell's in the building. You got Nick Bosa paid, Armstead's back. Kinlaw's having I don't want to say a great year, but actually playable this year. Like you are getting you're getting performances from players maybe you don't expect to get them from, like Kinlaw. But I guarantee you, DeMeco Ryans is on this team still. They win this game.
They probably beat the Browns too.
Yeah. And I don't want to just say, Steve Wilkes, like it's your fault. But tonight, especially, more than the Browns game, because that's a 19-17 game. You get 2 field goals, whatever, things don't go your way. I can forgive the Browns game. But I do think there were some concerning things that I think we all wanted to wash away and say, oh, it's just one game, Mark. And that, it's a rainy day in Cleveland against a backup third-string quarterback. No big deal. We'll bounce back. The whole talk was going to bounce back, going to Minnesota, knock off primetime Kirk Cousins. And honestly, I was talking a bunch of crap on X, on Twitter, saying, what is he going to wear in the post-game press conference that his wife had laid out for him before the game?
You hear that, Vikings fans? You better go check out.
I was like, you can shove that skull horn so far up your, you know what? Now I'm sitting here like, give me the horn.
At 49ers_access on Twitter. Go give it to him. He deserves it. Honestly, talking all that mess before the game.
But it's because I have so much confidence that this team should be at the top. This team, as
a 7-point favorite
and
tonight.
You are, we all came in with the utmost confidence. Yeah, we don't have maybe 2 big players. We still got that defense. Purdy's going to bounce back. And really, Purdy had 3.5 good quarters. Then he turned the ball over twice, and the defense didn't show up almost at all. And when the defense did show up, Purdy throws 2 picks. It felt like there's no cohesion. It feels like the defense is just trying to find an answer and is like, I'm scrambling. My brain scrambles. I don't know what to do. Yeah. And there's guys wide open. There's assignments missed on every single play. Kirk Cousins looked like he was an elite quarterback tonight. And if anyone hates saying that, it should be Kyle Shanahan. There should be a meeting tomorrow. Hey, Wilkes, what the hell was that, man? You're making me look bad. Like, I don't want that guy. I don't like.
Hey, you might be looking at Shanahan look good. That's his guy.
No. Because look,
Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins.
Doesn't matter. The whole thing is you want to beat that guy and go, there's a reason they don't want you here in San Francisco. Kirk Cousins, who's that? We got Brock Purdy. We got this defense. And now it's like, Wilkes, what the heck, man? Like, you letting Kirk Cousins throw for 400 yards against you? 378 yards? Like,
you like that? You like
I don't, Craig. I don't.
Kirk liked it tonight.
Man.
We can have a Brock Purdy conversation a little bit later. I think there is one to have. We got a few more minutes left here in the segment. Let's take a couple of calls here quickly. A couple of you guys have been holding on for a while. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Mike in Oakland. Mike, you're on overtime here on 95.7 The Game with Grandy and Sterling. Mike, what'd you think of that Niner game today?
Man, I loved it. You know what? I've been saying for weeks that
The Niners are overrated. Look who you talk about who the Vikings have beat. Who have the 49ers beat? The Steelers aren't a good team.
4-2.
Steelers are pretty good. Cowboys, despite the fact that they look terrible, they're a good team.
They're 4-2 with smoke and mirrors, just like
Cowboys?
the 49ers. Listen. The Cowboys with Dak Prescott, come on, man. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. 259 people passed on Brock Purdy for a reason, man. It's going to come out in the wash. I'm telling you, it's going to come out. You're starting to see that if it's not a perfectly robotic type scripted play, he doesn't know what to do. He messes up. He makes throws across his body like he did with that last interception, and it's gonna start showing his lack of skills, his lack of precision when it counts. He's playing against real playoff teams this year. And the 49ers defense, you act like this is new. Was anybody watching the NFC Championship game last year?
With no quarterback?
Gassed him.
With no quarterback?
Gassed him.
They couldn't pass the ball?
No. Not with no quarterback. Even before that, he was getting gassed.
It was one drive? It was one drive.
It happened on the first drive of the
And
game.
it was a drop play on the sideline that wasn't challenged by Kyle Shanahan.
Appreciate the call, Mike. We can have a Brock Purdy conversation. Yeah. There is a Brock Purdy conversation
might be some serious
to be had.
problems with this team.
There is one. We're going to have that conversation. We can do it come out of the break here in a couple of minutes. We should.
Jeez.
Brock Purdy, 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions, bad ones in the fourth quarter. Largely, though, I mean, there was a thought bouncing in the back of my head, certainly at halftime. That was one of the best halves I've seen Brock Purdy play.
I agree.
Honestly. And they only put up 7 points.
Yeah.
Now, I can hear the callers. I can read the text already. How could you possibly say that? They put up 7 points. You're saying that's one of the better halves of Brock Purdy's career. He was making throw after throw. He used his legs to perfection. Yeah. I was incredibly impressed. With that said,
tell me,
those turnovers in the fourth quarter are unacceptable. You cannot make those throws. The one to Juwan Jennings, he tried to anticipate him coming out of his break and threw it 5 yards too far. He just did not anticipate it well. It turned into an easy interception.
He threw
and it
2
killed
picks right to safeties.
Yep. Killed all the momentum that the Niners had, and the last one killed their last chance at winning this ball game. We can talk about Brock Purdy. There's still a ton to get into about the defense as well. Who do you blame for this loss? Is it Steve Wilkes? Is it the defense? Do you have any blame for Nick Bosa? Is it Brock Purdy? What about Brandon Ayuk? A goose egg in the second half. There's plenty to talk about, and we want to hear from you. Jose, there's a couple of Jose's. Jose in Alameda and Jose in Virginia. You've been on hold for a while. We're coming to you on the other side, so stay right there. It's overtime here on 95.7 The Game. It's Sterling and Grandy. More coming up after the Niners lost in Minnesota. Next on 95.7 The Game.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Aaron from the North Peninsula. I've been using RNS Erection North Peninsula for the last 10 years, and they always provide reliable, quality, and affordable service. Thank you, RNS, for always being honest and helpful.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working.
Lost to the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Thanks for tuning in. Again, it's overtime here on 95.7. The Game. We're with you for the next couple of hours. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett, 22-17, the final score. The 49ers have now lost consecutive games after they began the year 5-0. They're 5-2, no longer top in the NFC, and just a half-game edge on the Seattle Seahawks at the moment. Seattle got a hard-fought win over the Arizona Cardinals this week, so they gained a game on the 49ers this week in the race for the NFC West title. We want to hear from you all night long here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. As promised, let's go out to the phone lines. Jose from Virginia has been hanging on for quite a while. Jose, what's up? You're on Overtime with Randy and Sterling. What'd you think of that Niners loss tonight, Jose?
Hey, man, I just want to say thanks for taking my call. Y'all are all I got for, being on the East Coast. It's hard out here for a Niners fan.
Hey, appreciate you tuning in, Jose.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I want to preface the call by saying that I'm not giving the defense a pass because it was atrocious. Calling the blitz on 13 seconds left with Ward man-to-man, I'm sorry, but Ward's is buns. I've been calling that since last year. But that's not the reason why I called. I'm in favor of Sterling's analysis. I think Kyle Shanahan needs the spotlight, man. I think I don't know if it's a trend, but I'm paying attention. I know NFL coaches are paying attention. If you look at the Browns game, or if you look at the past 5 games, I don't know exact running yards, but McCaffrey had over 100 rushing yards. If you look at the Browns game, he had like 43. This time at the half, he had I think 32 with 11 carries, and the other team had 6 with 34 carries. And he loves running the ball, and I think I heard somewhere, or I read in an interview, that he loves having a minimum run play every game, and that's all fine and dandy when the run is working. But when it's not working, it took him to the second half to adjust. I was even talking to this with my brother, and I don't know, maybe you guys disagree. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's the same thing with the Browns game. They wasn't throwing the ball enough, and then this second half, as soon as they started throwing the ball. 3 plays, they got a touchdown. So I don't know, I'm saying, all these NFL personalities are talking about Purdy's the weakest links, but I think Kyle Shanahan needs to adjust better.
Okay, Jose, I think that's fair in terms of adjustments. I said the same thing after the Browns game, and you weren't here for that post-game show, Sterling, but I think it was a simple case of Shanahan not being able to adjust in-game to something that the Browns were doing defensively.
Got outcoached.
He got outcoached in that game. I do not see it this way in this game. The Niners were getting almost everything they wanted, specifically in the passing game. Maybe you say, okay, well, why did you run it at all in the second half? They only ran the ball with running backs 16 times in this game. Kittle had 1 carry.
Awesome.
Purdy had 5. I don't think any of Purdy's runs were designed quarterback runs. No. Right?
Well, the quarterback sneak, I guess.
I guess there were 2 quarterback sneaks. So the other 3 were scrambles.
Yeah.
Really not really designed runs there. McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell combined for 16 carries. Kittle had 1 a 3rd and short where they converted.
Where was Jordan Mason tonight?
He was. Question.
Fine.
The backup running back only had 1 carry. Anyway.
I don't care. Christian McCaffrey comes in with the oblique injury. I get. He says, "I'm good to go, coach." And to alleviate him just for 1 play, you don't utilize the running back that averaged over 5.5 yards an attempt against the Browns defense.
We're both in agreement here. I think Jordan Mason should be the second string running back moving forward, even if everyone in that unit is healthy.
I think the conversation this week was, Shanahan, your usage with Christian McCaffrey is going to get him hurt. And then in a game like this where you know he's banged up, has what did Jake Glazer say? A slight teeny tear of the oblique, whatever it was. And you know that there could be an instant in this game where maybe he does get re-injured again and it can't go. Now, didn't happen.
What'd you think of the usage for him?
Tonight I thought was fine, but
15 carries and 3 catches.
That's fine. 18 touches is fine for me, but again, get Jordan Mason the ball. He is someone that, in a very small sample size this season, and even a little bit last year, has proven that he can at least be the thunder to McCaffrey's lightning. He's a power back. He's like 250 pounds. He was running through the Browns' defensive line that is, if not the best, a top 2 line in football that has just guys everywhere. Probably has right now the Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, on it, running through them.
Yeah.
But you don't play him against the Vikings defensive line that is not great. It's hard to comprehend exactly what Kyle Shanahan's thinking, but sometimes it feels like there's common sense. It's just not happening.
Okay, so what would you have suggested? The 1 carry that Elijah got should have been Jordan Mason's 1 carry?
If you want to
take a couple more away from Christian McCaffrey?
I think in today's game,
today's game, how do you factor Jordan Mason in? I think it would have been better had McCaffrey gotten 5 carries. He could have had 5 catches for all I care. Mason gets 5 carries. You only want the best running back in the NFL. And if he's hurt, he's not playing in this game. He's good enough to play. Give him the damn ball.
Against the blitz, put him out wide. Put him in the backfield. Do screen passes. He can catch the ball. He can be a mainstay in the offense.
I cannot.
His biggest play of the game came through the air. Wasn't on the ground. He had 9. His longest run was 9 yards. He's a great player.
Elijah Mitchell's longest run was -1
Elijah Mitchell
yards.
hasn't been good since 2 years ago in the NFC Championship game where he averaged 1 yard a carry. He's not good.
I agree to the extent that Jordan Mason is this team's second best running back. I would want him to get every possible touch ahead of Elijah Mitchell. That's just how I personally feel.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a role for Jordan Mason in this game today. I'm not taking the ball away from Christian McCaffrey.
No.
I know he has a as Jay Glazer put it, a slight tear of his oblique. I don't really know what that means. It doesn't sound very good. Any tear seems scary to me. But if team doctors are clearing Christian McCaffrey to play and he's playing, I'm giving Christian McCaffrey the ball over Jordan Mason. I'm not taking away 10 Christian McCaffrey carries.
No.
Well, you said instead of 15, give McCaffrey 5.
No, give him 10. Take away 5.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood that. I don't know.
And then he touches the ball. McCaffrey gets 10 carries. You give Mason 5. You just take away the 5. It wasn't like McCaffrey was effective on the ground all night. He had 3 yards a pop. He was more effective, maybe because of the injury that's bothering him still. You utilized him in the screen game. His biggest play of the day was a 21-yard touchdown catch. Like, it's not like you can't...
35-yard touchdown catch.
That's even better. That proves my point even further. He was more of a weapon tonight through the air than on the ground. And when you don't have Debo out there, you need someone that you can use in the screen game on end arounds and stuff. Why not use McCaffrey? You do have a running back, again, in a small sample size. Like, without your number one receiver in Debo Samuel, you have to find ways to almost, I don't want to say replace him, but utilize that role and make a different player play that role. They didn't do that tonight. McLeod wasn't out there very much. It was very much a drop back and pass night for Brock Purdy. And
that's what the caller is saying. It should have been even more drop back and pass. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
I think it was Jose. Jose said that the Niners should have just abandoned the run.
Yes,
he didn't say that
because I do think that there could have been passes to Christian McCaffrey to get him in open space, get him the ball early behind the line of scrimmage, whatever it is, and feed him and give him 2 blockers, give him Kittle and Jennings in front of him or whoever it is and tell them, you have 5 open yards, run, my friend. And that was his biggest play of the night. When you have a blitzing defense, what usually is used to get around that or expose that? Quick passing games, screens. San Francisco's biggest play of the game was just that, and it happened, twice tonight? Why didn't Shanahan use that more?
Maybe there could have been a little bit more creativity in the short passing game.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm just not taking away McCaffrey touches. I get the argument, like, he's got this slight tear in his oblique. Yeah. Like, let's try to save him.
And you protect him by doing that.
Some of the you heard all day long here on 95.7 The Game was, what do you do with McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
And there was a number of people who were like, well, you shouldn't even need him to beat the Vikings,
such a
right?
Dumb argument.
Let's rest him, right? If he's healthy enough to go up, suit up and play,
yes,
give him his normal touches. That's how I feel.
There are people...
Football is a dangerous game. You could be 100% healthy. It could be your first snap of the season. It's happened before, and guess what? Out for the year. Like, it's the nature of this sport.
Garrison Hurst, Falcons playoff game, first snap, bang, torn ACL, done. And you're like, we lost a running back. It happens.
What was it? Jimmy Ward last year, first game back, broke his hand on special teams on the opening kickoff. He wasn't even involved in the play, really.
Yeah.
It happens.
I do think...
Maybe that's a cop-out answer, but if my star running back is healthy enough to play, I am playing him and I'm giving him his normal touches until something happens and he's like, hey, coach, I aggravated it.
I got
Sorry.
A boo-boo. You think he talks like that?
Yeah, probably not.
Kyle, I got a boo-boo. But I agree that, yes, if McCaffrey's healthy enough to play, you want to get him the touches he would normally get. I just think that you can make a game plan to get him those touches that maybe isn't just 15 carries, that can maybe utilize him in a way to help exploit the Vikings defense.
That's fair.
Blitz is probably a blitz 60% of the time tonight. The offensive line, especially, and this is even worse, when you don't have Trent Williams on Purdy's blind side and you got Jalen Moore, who had this been last season, it's not, but had it been last season, the 2 starting tackles tonight are both this team's backups last year. If you know that, why not utilize McCaffrey, McLeod, Ayuk in the screen game, Kittle, more?
With that said, I don't think the offensive line was bad today.
It wasn't great. It wasn't awful. There could have been a lot worse.
Could have been worse.
But it wasn't great.
Jalen Moore was decent at left tackle.
What does the PFF grade say, Grandy?
Oh, those aren't out yet. They got to cook them up for a little bit. It's a process. It takes a while. There's a whole lot that goes
stinks
into those
and that guy's
grades.
good. All right, call it a day.
I mean, Colton McKivitz got absolutely bum rushed by Daniil Hunter time and time again.
The Vikings' best pass rusher coming into this game, or the player that had the best pass rush win rate, was safety Harrison Smith. It's not like this Vikings team was getting home a ton all night. They were getting close and just close enough to add pressure to Brock Purdy. And then our defensive line did nothing.
Yeah.
Shanahan commented on, I'm sure they're cutting the sound now, but Shanahan was like, yeah, we got no pressure. You would like to think that a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, we can make him uncomfortable. Look pretty comfortable to me. That, to me, is Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of this team, calling out the defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa, who you just paid the most money of any non-quarterback in football, to Javon Hargrave, who 10 sacks last year, going to be a big player for this defense, and he's a good player. Where were you tonight? The whole conversation during the offseason was, man, you got 3 guys that can take up double teams. Drake Jackson going to have a big year. You get Randy Gregory going to have a big year. No one's taking up double teams. No one's freeing up space. No one's getting home. That's a concern. Even Nick Bosa tonight said that usually we just rush 4 and get home. Didn't happen tonight. Why? Why is it not happening? Why are 3 borderline, if not guaranteed 2 and 3 All-Pros, Armstead, Hargrave, and Nick Bosa, how can those guys not get home? Like, there needs to be a conversation. I'm talking team meeting of like, step it up.
For me, that's where the conversation about this game begins. I get some of the frustration offensively. There is bound to be frustration, and deservedly so, when you score 17 points against a not very good defense. When you have athletes and talent like McCaffrey and Kittle and Ayuk, even though you're without Deebo Samuel, you should be able to put up more than 17 points. But you watch the game, you look at some of the numbers, and you're like, all right, without those turnovers, you're putting up, 28 points, something like that, and that wins you this game. You're gaining a ton of yards per play, over 6 yards per play. I'm not that concerned about the offense, although I get some of the frustration. For me, the conversation about this game, it begins with the defense, and specifically the defensive line. You said it. This is a better unit than last year. And last year, you can make the case, maybe besides the Philadelphia Eagles, you could also argue the front of the Cowboys is up there. This is the top 3 defensive line. You consider the linebackers as well, the front 7. This is one of the best, if not the best, fronts in football, and you're unable to get to the quarterback. And it's not like Kirk Cousins is an extremely mobile quarterback either. As Shanahan said, the quote that you're referencing there, you should be able to make this guy uncomfortable. Really, whether you're blitzing or not, even with a 4-man rush, you should be able to maybe not sack him time and time again, but force him to evade pressure, run from the pocket, which is not something he's good at doing. He's a quality quarterback. He can make it work, but you make him run and fight and earn those tough plays where he's spinning out of the pocket, throwing across his body. You should be able to do that relatively often against this offensive line, who, as you mentioned, is also missing a starter on their offensive line. You should be able to do that. So for me, Sterling, I get the offensive frustrations. I get that. But this is on the defense for me.
Yeah.
This was definitely the worst performance of the season, despite only giving up 22 points. And, I'd have to search through some of the numbers. Maybe the Raiders game towards the end of last regular season, their worst performance in quite a while.
Well, last year, I think the Niners had their worst performance per DVOA, if you want to get dirty with it, since the year 2000. And they went on to an amazing run towards the end of the year. But Kenny Pickett, Steelers, more mobile quarterback than Kirk Cousins? Yes or no?
Yes.
Sacked him, 4 times in that game? Stafford equally as mobile?
Yeah, they're relatively the same.
Got him a couple times.
Daniel Jones, way more mobile.
Got him a couple times. Josh Dobbs.
Way more mobile.
Got him a couple times, I believe. Dak Prescott.
More mobile.
I believe got him at least once. PJ Walker.
Way more mobile.
Got him a couple times. Why is that Kirk Cousins, without his star receiver, for a handful of plays tonight, no TJ Hawkinson when he was on and off the field all night. With
Jordan Addison also left in the second half.
They let a rookie receiver scored 2 touchdowns against them. Mooney Ward got cooked.
The one at the end of the first half is inexcusable.
Biggest play of the game, cost him the game tonight.
Did you have the quote from Kyle Shanahan? We don't have it cut yet. I can't just play it. But the final drive of the first half, Steve Wilks calls a 6-man blitz, essentially an all-out blitz.
Going on Greg Williams.
You got no safety help over the top. It's one-on-one. Mooney Ward, who had the interception against Jordan Addison early, one-on-one, Mooney against Jordan Addison, and Kirk Cousins does not throw a great ball. Mooney Ward ends up grabbing it and then ripped away by Jordan Addison, who runs into the end zone. And it did not seem like Kyle Shanahan was all that happy about that play call defensively. An all-out blitz when you know that the Vikings have to go over the top to have any chance of scoring any points, not just a touchdown, but a field goal to close the first half, that one was questionable at best.
It's almost as if the Niners the past 2 weeks have, whether it's on offense or defense, they've either missed a play offensively, like against the Browns last week, Shanahan, a 32-yard line, what happens? Oh, delay a game, moves you back 5 yards, then Purdy fumbles, moves you out of field goal range, maybe cost you that game against the Browns, or at least one of the bigger plays that cost you. This week against the Vikings, you get inside the red zone a handful of times, you fumble a few times, or throw a pick or whatever. But that play, the Steve Wilks play, and I believe we have the sound now.
Yeah.
Give me a second, Craig, and then we'll toss to it. But this play, you give them an all blitz, beat us, Kirk Cousins. You are testing him saying, beat us, right? What's he do?
Beats you.
Beat you. 6-yard touchdown.
The throw wasn't great. I mean, it was going to be an interception.
Yeah. It was undercut by Mooney Ward,
but still, it doesn't excuse the play call just because it was a bad throw and Mooney Ward had an opportunity to pick that ball off does not excuse the fact that on a situation where they're going to be throwing the ball deep down the field, you have no safety help.
But even then, so the Vikings score a touchdown. Okay, boom. What was the score then? Like 19-7, I believe, or 16-7. 16-7 going into halftime. Like, okay, like still fight our way back. You get into the final drive of the game for San Francisco, ball on your own 40-yard line, less than a minute, no timeouts. If that play doesn't happen, let's say they just score 3 points. Hypothetical, I get it, but let's say you play the normal prevent defense, Vikings score 3.
You're down 2.
And guess what?
Field goal wins the game.
You give Jake Moody a chance to win you the game. Make up for
what
last
a story
week.
that would have been if he hit a game-winner field goal.
Again, it comes down to just 1 or 2 plays a game. But my bigger issue is that this team is so freaking good, it shouldn't come down to those plays. This isn't the playoffs where you can say, oh, we escaped week 7, got to clean that up in 10 weeks. No, you're losing pivotal games to give you some breathing room, to allow you to lose a game or two late in the year due to injury or just one bad game by who knows what player it might be. But now you've lost 2 games in a row. You're 1 game ahead of Seattle. You're 1 game now behind Philadelphia. You have to beat the Bengals next week. You have to come out of the bye. Hopefully you're healthy. Then you have to beat Jacksonville. Then you have to beat the Buccaneers.
And the Bengals are off a bye.
Then you have to go to Seattle, to Philadelphia, then play Seattle again back home. And I believe that's a Thanksgiving, then Philadelphia, then back home. It's not like you're getting, all Sunday. It's Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah, it's Thursday in Seattle on Thanksgiving, then to Philadelphia,
Sunday,
and then back home to Seattle again.
Like, it's not going to get any easier. And right now, San Francisco's losing by 1 play or 2. But this team is so good, it shouldn't even come down to that.
Yeah. All right, that play we're talking about at the end of the first half, here's how it sounded earlier today on ESPN.
I think assignment was blown on the touchdown, called an all-out blitz, and he's got to get rid of it right away, and he threw it up and got a chance for a pick, didn't come through with it, and they got a touchdown. It's a real bad play by us.
Real bad play by us.
Calling out Steve Wilks right there.
You think so?
Yeah, it's a real bad play. Shanahan's like, I didn't call that play.
Is it bad play
I didn't make that call.
Bad play by the play caller or by the players on the field?
Well, the player almost had the pick.
Yeah,
and guess what?
And frankly, he should hold on to that.
Sure, but you got to give Jordan Addison credit here. But have you not called the play? Even if you play prevent, it's not as if the Vikings get out of bounds with no timeouts, I believe, or at least had 1. It's not like the situation favored them by any means. You call prevent defense, you play soft zone, whatever it is, you give them 10 yards, you give them 15 yards. What you don't give them is 60 yards and a touchdown and swing the game 9 points in their favor. That's what Steve Wilks did.
Biggest play of the game.
Yeah, and it cost them the game.
Play of the game. I agree. All right, a few more minutes here in this segment. Let's get back to the phone lines. Samuel in Spokane has been holding on for quite a while. Samuel, appreciate you holding on. You're on overtime with Grandy and Sterling. Niners fall in Minnesota 22-17. Samuel, what'd you think of that game today?
I I got to start off. There's a reason we're called the Faithful. I still got my hat on. I'm still ready for the season to turn out good.
Nice.
That being said,
amen.
Faith is not facts, and the facts were Wilkes blew the game. We did not use our defensive talent. We have Pro Bowlers and top-of-the-league players at every single level on defense. It is a cascade that led to every single fault. I could tie it to offense even if you let me stretch long enough. We have, first, you get rush defense that's just not in the game. You have a hesitant line that's been getting beat in the box before the play even starts. So they're starting in the wrong spot. They're coming out of the wrong spot. You have linebackers that are looking around with duct tape trying to plug holes where there's just too many for them even to cope. And then you have a secondary that's more focused on the rushing game. It's not plugged in on that passing game that we're getting too aggressive. We're getting those pass interference-esque, those 50-50 coin flip calls that we're going to get either way because we have an aggressive defense, if not the most aggressive defense in the league, although after the Browns game, can't really go there. On top of that, you had turnover rate. The Vikings came into the game with a terrible turnover rate, and we gave them their best game of the year, probably going to be their best game of the year. When you misposition the secondary and they're forced into those messy catches, paired up with those coin flips, imagine if they had Jefferson in as well. We're put in a situation where we can't catch that at play development at that point. And all of this keeps a blitz-heavy defense on the sidelines well-rested to give Purdy hell every single time they come out. We've got an injured running back, a new quarterback, and we've got an offensive line that, although we keep giving them shit, they're playing.
I can't do that. But,
that's what word to describe the defense tonight, if you want to put it that way.
Maybe it's the most apt way. We can't describe it that way.
No, but the caller certainly.
No. Don't encourage that, Sterling.
Yeah, don't call it in say some profanity.
And it's funny because I was asking where the dump button was today because I didn't know where
Good question.
It's good to finally.
Good question.
Yeah, now I know where it is.
It's that big red button on the corner.
Watch it profanity.
All right, we got to hit a break here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Javier, Jake, and Joe, I see you. We'll get to you on the other side here on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. It is heard from Craig behind the glass. We're all coming back after this as Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game.
This is the lunch rush at your local deli. Orders are flying in. Online, on the phone, and in person.
Order for Nick.
So is it possible that fast internet could help your business outrun the rush? It is with Comcast Business. Up-leveling your speed with gig speed Wi-Fi, powering all your devices, and fast downloads and uploads, powered by the next generation 10G network. With Comcast Business, next-level speed isn't just possible, it's happening. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $59.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying internet bundle. Call or go online to learn more. Ends 11/12/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments. New 50 megabits per second internet and security edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires gig internet and compatible router.
Matt Coker here with West Coast Men's Health. In the past 5 years, we've seen thousands of men at our clinics. Most guys tell us the same story, that in their early 50s, it's not that they couldn't function, they just needed help. They started taking Viagra, and it worked great at first. But after a few years, it stopped working. The problem is that their arteries had become more restricted since they started taking it, because Viagra does not unclog arteries. Here at West Coast Men's Health, we use acoustic wave therapy to target the real problem. We break down plaque and clear up the arteries so blood can flow like it did in your 20s. This restores function. And guys, listen to this. You won't have to take a pill anymore. So if this sounds like you, give West Coast Men's Health a call today and see how we can help.
With clinics in San Mateo, Pleasanton, and Walnut Creek, call 650-585-8909. That's 650-585-8909. 650-585-8909. Online at westcoastmenshealth.com.
Wesley had IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Coming after my house, my car. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
Wesley called Optima Tax Relief.
Oh, they were great people. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-935-7144. 800-935-7144. Optima Tax Relief. For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
When buying her home, Jan couldn't compete against cash offers. And Jan is very competitive. At her kid's soccer game.
Kick the f***ing ball!
At the grocery store.
Too many f***ing items! Express lane violation! Right here! Express lane violation!
And at charades.
Suck it, you losers!
And that's why she worked with Fly Homes. We helped Jan structure an offer to specifically compete against cash offers, making Jan a much more competitive buyer.
Right, it did.
Visit flyhomes.com.
Fly Homes Inc., DRE number 020-12110.
Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey, small business owner. Are you ready to have the best year ever in 2024? When's the last time you checked your workers' comp rate? For many small businesses, workers' comp insurance is one of their biggest costs. But Pi Insurance could save you up to 30% in just 3 minutes. Go to trypi.com, share a few details about your business, and get a quote that's customized for your business. No hassles or hidden fees. We know you're busy, but spending just a few minutes to check your rate could make this your best year ever. Plus, when you sign up for pay-as-you-go billing, your premium is based on your actual payroll, not an estimate. So your workers' comp audit experience is simplified. See how much you could save with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote at trypi.com. That's TRYPIE.com.
It's time for MLB Pitch, Hit, and Run, the official youth skills competition of Major League Baseball. Host a local event and give kids in your community a chance to compete in the Pitch, Hit, and Run finals at the 2024 MLB World Series. Sign up for free at pitchhitrun.com.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit, hims.com/joy.
Now back to Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. That highlight you just heard, Joe Buck on ESPN, the Christian McCaffrey 35-yard touchdown catch and run. It came with about 6 minutes left in quarter number 3, made it a 19-14 Minnesota lead. At that point, you're feeling all right. All right, the offense is getting going. The defense get us a stop, get the offense the ball right back.
Now I want to get drunk and cry a beer. I don't even drink.
It did not happen. Final score, 22-17. The Vikings come out on top over the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of issues in this one. The defense gave up a ton of yards. An offense that hadn't been great, even with the best receiver in football, playing without the best receiver in football. They put up 452 points, averaging nearly 7 yards per play. The 49ers on offense did a decent job matching them, 325 yards, but on much fewer plays, over 6 yards per play for the 49ers on offense, but 3 turnovers, including 1, a fumble by Christian McCaffrey on the doorstep of the goal line on the Niners' first drive of the ballgame, 2 turnovers by Brock Purdy, a couple of interceptions in the fourth quarter. That was the issue for the 49ers defensively. Offensively, add it all up, and they fall to the Minnesota Vikings 22-17. The Niners now 5-2. Minnesota improves to 3-4. And Sterling, just 2 weeks ago, this team was 5-0, riding high, just came off of a dominant, perhaps the most impressive win in the 2023 season by any team. You fast forward just 2 weeks later, and suddenly you're looking at a team that has questions at a number of places.
Are the Niners elite, Mark?
I still think so.
You do?
I do.
Do you think the fan base
I think they're
does?
one of the 5 best teams in the NFL.
Oh, okay. Which one? Which number right now?
Oh, God.
They're not better than Philadelphia. And I can guarantee you, even if healthy, coming into week 7, had San Francisco played the Philadelphia Eagles, they lose by 20. I'm just saying how both those teams are playing right now, how great Philadelphia's offensive line has been. We thought this Niners defense getting no pressure against Kirk Cousins. They are never even getting close to breathing on Jalen Hurts.
I was more impressed by Philadelphia's defense against the Dolphins. They allowed
got better today by acquiring Kevin Byard from the Titans.
They allowed 17 points against the Dolphins. That's right? It was 17? Yeah. I think it was.
It wasn't good enough to win, is all I'll say.
That defense is scary.
Yeah, and they got better.
And you stole Javon Hargrave from them, and they're still scary. So I agree. Philadelphia, better than the Niners at this very moment.
Dolphins? That offense is really scary when they're not playing a good team. And right now, the defense for San Francisco isn't very good.
Well, I mean, it's Kansas City. Yep. It's Miami.
Chiefs beat San Francisco tomorrow.
Is Buffalo in there? I mean, Buffalo's 3 bad losses now on the year.
Niners
2 really bad losses. I think the Niners are the fourth best team in the NFL.
2 weeks ago, they were number 1. Last week, number 2, probably. Now they're number 4. Is that not concerning?
That's still good.
Brock Purdy's thrown 3 picks in the last 2 games.
Let's talk about Brock Purdy.
2 massive picks this game.
I think you can think back to the Browns game. It was wet. It was rainy. It was miserable.
Yeah, you can forgive it.
Playing without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel for a lot of that game doesn't excuse a bad performance because it was still a bad performance, but I think a little more, understandable, if that's the right word. You can, I'm not saying make an excuse for him, but you can find some excuses, I suppose.
Best defense in 53 years through 5 weeks. Browns,
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible team.
You can give them that.
Incredible defense. This game, it's a little bit harder to find a reason for why things went wrong, specifically for Brock Purdy. And I said it a little bit ago. At halftime, I thought Brock Purdy was playing one of the best halves of his career.
What did I say in the studio? Saw you for the first time on and go, you see this Brock Purdy guy's playing great.
Brock Purdy, I have the stats here, right here at halftime. 11 for 13, 122 yards, didn't have a touchdown, didn't throw an interception. Now, he should have led his team to more than 7 points because there was a turnover by Christian McCaffrey and his kicker missed a field goal. Very easily, you could be looking at 17 points at half instead of 7. This is an entirely different ballgame.
Yep.
Third quarter, still mostly good, connecting on a lot of passes. George Kittle was involved in this game. Juwan Jennings had his best game of the year. He was really good in this game. Mm-hmm. I think Ayuk, Kittle, and Jennings all had 5 catches in this game. They were all good. I mean, Ayuk had a goose egg in the second half, but it was balanced in the passing game offensively for the 49ers. And then the fourth quarter came around, and Brock Purdy threw 2 incredibly meaningful interceptions.
2 dumb picks. Dumb.
And specifically the first one to Juwan Jennings, there was room for that ball to be completed for 15, 20 yards, and he just led him by 4 yards too many. Turned into an easy interception, and then he followed it up by throwing an interception to the same exact safety on what proved to be the final meaningful play of the game for the San Francisco 49ers. This is consecutive games for Brock Purdy where you have to think, like...
And he fumbled last week, too, but got it back.
You have to be a little bit concerned moving forward. I'm not saying that this is suddenly a mid-tier, bottom-tier quarterback in the NFL.
Should go trade for Trey Lance. Right?
If that's what you're getting from me, I'm not saying that. I thought he was as good as he's ever been in the first half. But what was the knock on Jimmy Garoppolo?
Oh.
What was the knock on other Niners quarterbacks of the past?
You're in a scary territory right now.
What was the knock on those guys?
Tell me.
They're going to give the ball to the defense a couple of times, and they're going to make you scratch your head. It's going to be inexplicable, right?
Yeah.
And what did Brock Purdy do today?
The Jimmy O no throw.
He gave the ball to the defense at the moments where you absolutely couldn't have it happen. Again, it's really a one-game sample size because you can kind of forget about the Cleveland game. There's a lot of other things happening in that game.
He drove him down the field to win the game.
Yeah, and if
when it mattered most, he stood tall.
And if that field goal goes through by Jake Moody against the Browns, this is an entirely different conversation.
We're sitting here saying, oh, the one bad game for Brock Purdy. Oh, he beat the best defense in 53 years.
But all I am saying is what made Brock Purdy... What had been making him special and
different
and different than Niners quarterbacks of the past was just not only rarely, he would never make those kinds of throws. Never. And he did it twice in a span of about 5 minutes today.
Was it 2 straight drives?
2 straight drives. The first interception came with 5.5 left, and the second interception at the end of the game came in the final minute.
He won 14 straight games, correct?
Something like that.
Teens, right? This year, I believe he started out, through 5 games, no interceptions. 1 turnover was a fumble against Pittsburgh, the first game of the year against TJ Watt on a strip sack. Past 2 weeks, 3 turnovers, could have been a 4th on a fumble in Cleveland. I'm by no means saying Brock Purdy is a bad quarterback, not saying he can't bounce back, not saying that he can't rediscover who he once was just 2 weeks ago. But I will say it is concerning that, okay, you lose to a Browns defense. They're just a really good, strong defense. You had a poor game, but at the end of it, you had a chance to win, and you put your team in a position to come out with the W. You were not playing the Browns today. You were playing rather, the 18th, 16th ranked defense. Again,
middle of the pack.
3 secondary pieces with a 90-plus passer rating allowed, 2 of them over 110. You're not playing the greatest secondary of all time. You're not playing a very, really stout defensive line, who in fact didn't even have their best pass rusher in Marcus Davenport tonight. It feels like every time where you want to say, well, Purdy wasn't that bad here and wasn't that bad there, it was almost the inverse of last week where you're playing a great defense, where at the end he put it together and you should have won the game. This was, all right, Purdy, you got 2 drives. It's your time to shine. Go down and get us a touchdown. And for the first 2 times in his career, he failed. He didn't put his team in a position to score twice. Back-to-back drives, game on the line. That does not feel like Brock Purdy. And tonight, it's so much more unacceptable against this defense that it makes me sit here and say, well, you crushed the Giants defense, you crushed the Cardinals, you literally annihilated the Dallas Cowboys 42-10, and you can't get 20 points against the Vikings? Not even 20. You haven't popped 20 the past 2 weeks. You scored 17 against the Browns, only 17 again tonight. And it's not just Purdy. McCaffrey fumbles at the goal line or in the red zone. That could be at least 3 points, could get you that 20. But it's almost as if the past 2 weeks we really haven't had Brock Purdy on the field.
Yeah. And I get where some Niner fans will go with this conversation. Like, how could you possibly be hating on Brock Purdy? Like, I wouldn't even qualify it as hating. I wouldn't characterize it that way. Grunge91, shout out the YouTube chat, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Purdy is 23. People cut him some slack. Sheesh, Josh Allen, 4 interceptions, and Allen has played way more NFL games than Purdy. I agree with you.
Yeah, but guess what? Josh Allen, he ain't Mahomes. He ain't Lamar Jackson. And right now, Josh Allen's lost for the Giants and the Jets, and right now has led that Buffalo team to not being a top 5 team in the entire NFL.
Yeah, and what I would respond to you, Grunge, and appreciate you tuning in on YouTube and all of our YouTube watchers and followers, what I would say is, okay, well, when the conversation about Brock Purdy after 5 weeks is not only elite, but MVP favorite,
yeah,
you're going to be held to a high standard. And when you are the quarterback of a team that has not just hopes to win a championship, legitimate Super Bowl dreams.
You have to win it.
Where if you don't win it this year, next year, year after that, you feel like a failure, I'm sorry, but you're held to a high standard. Whether or not that's fair to a 23-year-old quarterback who was maybe not even going to be in the league a year and a half ago, maybe that's not fair to him specifically. But when you are in this situation, after 5 weeks, you were the not just MVP hopeful, you were the MVP favorite through nearly a third of the season. More than a fourth of the season, the MVP favorite on the Super Bowl favorite, you are held to a standard that the Mahomes are held to, that the Jalen Hurts are held to, that the Josh Allens are held to, and he has been getting roasted for his turnovers. That the Lamar Jacksons are held to. It's the nature of the way the NFL works. And then when you come out and throw 2 interceptions on the final 2 drives of a game, when your team is trailing in a game you should win on prime time in front of a national audience, you have to talk about it. And flat out, you got to say, hey, if you're the quarterback for a team that has all of those aspirations, that simply will not cut it.
And it sucks, too, because we're sitting here 2 weeks ago screaming his name from the mountaintop saying, we got the guy. And I don't think anybody is walking back their belief in Brock Purdy. It's 2 games.
Yeah, and really 1 game. I don't really care about the Cleveland game that much.
Well,
specifically when it comes to Purdy.
Colts put up like 35 points against that same defense this past week.
Gardner Minshew, baby.
Minshew,
the power of the mustache.
His hair's great, but I don't know. It's weird because there really isn't, for 3.5 quarters tonight, he really wasn't doing anything poorly. He was having a really good game, and I believe
the scramble and the run in the first half.
It was beautiful. It was like, whoa.
My jaw was on the floor.
Lamar
Jackson, was incredible.
Vanilla Jackson out there.
Oh my God,
man! One of the other Jackson brothers out there, Vanilla Jackson. Tito, Michael, Vanilla.
He's the 6th Jackson? Okay, there you go.
But
he was adopted.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, Brock Purdy, the good thing about struggling now, and maybe it's I forgot the caller's name, but last week I thought, well, he'll grow from this. He'll learn from this. He's always been a professional player, person when it comes to trying to learn and improve his game. Through these past 2 weeks, my belief hasn't changed in that, but I do think there are people now, and maybe I'm one of them, that does question his ceiling. So last week, Deebo Samuel gets hurt middle of the game, or first play of the game, actually. You lose him. McCaffrey out for the majority of the game. You lose him. This week, no Deebo, no Trent Williams. Does Purdy, and I'm not saying this as a guaranteed fact or saying this is how I feel, but I do think there are certain people that will say he is reliant on the stars around him. And, well, yes, most teams and most quarterbacks are. If you take away your best weapons, an offensive player or quarterback's not going to play as well. But the fact of the matter is you played a worse defense tonight than Kirk Cousins did, and he put up 378 passing yards without his best weapon. What was Purdy's excuse? Didn't have one.
And what the conversation is going to shift to, and it's exactly what you just said, it's going to become, okay, well, we saw what Brock Purdy looked like when he had his weapons at his disposal.
Had the whole arsenal.
5-0. They put up 42 against the Cowboys. It looked like this team could not be stopped. The conversation was Brock Purdy MVP. The conversation was 49ers not just Super Bowl favorite, but hell, they might go undefeated in the regular season. That's what the conversation was.
Vegas.
Whether or not you believed it or not, that was the conversation about this Niners team. And then what happened against the Cleveland Browns? Deebo goes down early. Christian McCaffrey misses like the entire second half or the vast majority of it. This game, you're without Trent Williams, your star left tackle. Deebo Samuel does not play. McCaffrey played, but, dealing with an injury to his oblique. We will probably never know how he was really feeling. If you had to put a percentage on it, certainly not 100%. The conversation will shift to, well, look what Purdy is when he doesn't have his all-pro weapons, all of them available. That's where this conversation is going. I am not sure I would go that far because this team still moved the ball. nearly every time they had the ball.
Yeah.
6 yards per play, more than 6 yards per play. And the turnovers are troublesome and worrisome, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago. But that's where this conversation is going. No doubt. That's if you're trying to get a pulse nationally on where this conversation is going.
He's going to get roasted tomorrow.
It is. He's Jimmy G incarnate.
System quarterback, just a point guard, can't do this, can't do that. And sometimes it takes being humbled to take your game to the next level. And by all means, Purdy can come out and out-duel Joe Burrow next week at home. Maybe it's getting back home that helps them.
And he very well could. And will I be shocked?
No.
No.
I'll say, yep, that's the Brock Purdy I've known for the previous 15 games.
And he would have to do it without Debo because Debo's not playing again next week.
And maybe even Trent Williams.
Perhaps. Like we can have a conversation. This is where the rhetoric around Brock Purdy is so convoluted and weird, really on both sides, because there's the portion of the fan base who still feel upset that Trey Lance never got a legitimate opportunity, and then
his hometown team tonight.
And then there's the portion of the fan base who is ready and willing, and I think more people as the season have gone on had jumped onto this part of the fandom bandwagon, like Brock Purdy is the next great Niners quarterback, right?
Next big thing, Brock Lesnar.
And we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. You were trying to goad me into saying Brock Purdy elite, one of the best quarterbacks.
You missed your chance, Mark. You could have done it.
And I didn't feel totally comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to victory lap or say whatever.
You can see the future, huh, Mark? You knew it was coming, didn't you?
I'm not saying that. But this is where the conversation, I think, for me becomes difficult because you have these two sides of the fan base who have been going at each other for a really long time now. And whenever there is just one bad game like this, you hear from the one side, like, what did we tell you?
Yeah. We had the caller tonight.
He's bad. He sucks. He's Jimmy G. He can't make the big throws when you're trailing in the fourth quarter. No, it's one bad game. We can talk about that bad game. We can say, hey, here are the facts. He threw 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. He wasn't good enough today. If this is a trend that continues, if this happens in a big game at the end of the regular season that cost them the 1 seed, cost them the division, cost them a playoff spot, if it happens in the playoffs, guess what? The conversation becomes more serious. What we can say right now, what I'm comfortable saying right now, he had a fantastic first 5 games, a couple of bumpy games. And that's totally fine. But what we're not going to do, Sterling, what I'm not going to do, Sterling,
I'll do it,
is just ignore it entirely because no. He in the biggest moments came up short today. That's okay. And is a big reason why the Niners didn't win tonight.
I think what's concerning to me really isn't even a Brock Purdy conversation. It's more so in previous years, there was at least one side of the ball that could carry the team. The past couple of years, probably the defense. This year, it doesn't feel like the defense can. And the past 2 weeks, the offense really hasn't had the punch it usually has. So now my question is, you need to have a score and a stop. Who do you trust more? I would like to think it's the offense, but to me, that's more concerning because you're going to have to play teams like Philadelphia. And if you can't stop that offense, you're not going to go to the Super Bowl. You're not going to win the NFC Championship game.
I think I'm with you. If I'm in a position, tie game, 2 minutes left on the clock, would I rather have the
ball or...
Well, I get that's easy. But if you're tied, say you're down 3 or up 3.
Say you're down 3.
You
3 minutes left.
Down
need to
3
stop.
and you have the ball.
No. Down 3. Need to stop. Trust the defense or no? I don't. Not right now, at least.
I'm just saying. What about this scenario? You're down 3. You have the ball. A couple minutes left. You're up 3. You're on defense. A couple minutes left. What do you feel more likely, that your defense is going to get a stop or your offense is going to go down and score?
Last 2 games, neither. But in the previous 5 before that, the offense is going to go down and score a touchdown.
I think I feel the same way.
That worries me though. In previous, even the first 5 games, we talked about how this defense doesn't even have to hold opposing offenses to 20 points. Maybe 23, 24. This offense in San Francisco, they're going to score 30 a game. Scored 17 in 2 past weeks. The defense can't stop really anybody. And yes, you can argue that, well, 19 against the Browns and 22 against the Vikings. Sure, that really isn't a bad outing per se, but you can't get off the field on third downs. And let's be honest here. You can't get pressure. Nick Bosa has been a ghost for 12 games now? I think I have the stat right here. In his last 12 games, dating back to last season, including playoffs, now Philadelphia game, let's say it's 11 games, right? His last 11 games, Nick Bosa has 3.5 sacks.
It's not good enough.
That's bench player production. And then you acquired a player, you signed Javon Hargrave to take up double teams and free up Nick Bosa. Where's Nick Bosa tonight? Where was Drake Jackson? Where was Brandon Gregory? Where was Clelin Ferrell? The guys that were supposed to, they're going to have one-on-one pass rushes, and they're going to beat their opposition. They're going to beat their tackles and their guards, their stunts, and they're going to bust through the line. We're going to have 50-plus sacks this year. It's not happening. That's concerning, that the guys you're paying aren't stepping up. Fred Warner, great player. For a while there, through 4 weeks, 5 weeks, was your DPOY, in my opinion. Maybe it's me being a homer, that's fine. But
he was really good.
Past 2 weeks, not great. The defense missed 10 tackles 2 weeks ago. Probably why they lost the game.
Well, against the Browns, it was concerning, but you also had you were playing without Dre Greenlaw. And I feel like if you had Dre Greenlaw, his speed to the outside going to keep Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt from getting the edge, you felt like his loss meant a lot in that game. Dre Greenlaw was back today. And the run game wasn't great for Minnesota at all. I mean, Madison had 8 for 39. Cam Akers actually out-touched him. He had 10 carries for 31 yards, not much. So they did a good job against the run for the most part. But you had a healthy defense. You had really everyone out there, right? They weren't missing anyone. Anyone of their starters?
Not a single player.
And you get absolutely killed through the air. Addison, 7 for 123 and 2. Hawkinson, 11 for 86. Brandon Powell, 4 for 64. Brandon Powell. KJ Osborne, 5 for 47. Cam Akers out of the backfield caught a couple for 30 yards. Their third string running back, Ty Chandler, had a 12-yard reception. You got beat by anybody and everybody in the passing game today, and you had a healthy defense. That's concerning.
You want to hear something crazy?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm really uncertain right now. KJ Osborne, he's their number 3 receiver with Jefferson healthy, with Addison being number 2, right?
Yes.
Osborne came into this game leading the Vikings in separation with an average of 3.14 yards. Okay, so he gets 3 yards a pop when it becomes separating from a defensive back. That ranks 74th in football. Tonight, massive player for the Vikings. And really, to my further point, no excuse as to why Lenore and Ward and Oliver, Hufanga, Gibson, why can they not stop the 74th best separator in football? How is Jordan Addison, who, fine rookie, 6 touchdowns this year, why are they getting beat by rookie receivers? This wouldn't have happened last year. Wouldn't happen 2 years ago. Wouldn't happen 4 years ago. Yeah. This defense is not as good as it was the past 3 years.
And I thought it was really strange schematically, and we can get into that on the other side as well for this 49ers defense. We can talk about Nick Bosa, Javier, Adam, Martin, I see you. We'll come to you on the other side. I think we got to have a conversation about Nick Bosa and this defense as a whole. There are reasons to be frustrated with the offense. We just talked about Brock Purdy, but I think a lot of this game is on the 49ers defense. That's coming up on the other side. It's overtime with Grandy and Sterling. More coming up, an hour left right here on 95.7 The Game.
Advertisement by Zimmerman Reed of 2381 Rosecrans Avenue, Suite 328, Manhattan Beach, California, 90245. Consent is not a condition of purchasing goods or services.
Attention all rideshare and food delivery drivers. If you're a current or former rideshare driver, listen closely, as you may be entitled to significant compensation. That's right. If you drove for a rideshare or food delivery service anytime in the past 3 years, you may be entitled to significant cash for unpaid wages and mileage. Text RIDE to 323232 right now to see if you qualify for compensation. That's RIDE to 323232 32. Rideshare and food delivery services may be in violation of federal and state employment laws. If you are a rideshare or food delivery driver, part-time or full-time, anytime during the last 3 years, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Text RIDE to 323232 now to see if you qualify for compensation. Hurry, time is limited, so text the word RIDE to 323232 now. Text RIDE to 323232.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
He's the best interview in the Bay Area.
Feeling, energetic and recharged, and I really like our team, and everything's good.
And he joins Willard and Dibbs every week during the NBA season.
Right.
Steve Kerr is brought to you by Xfinity. The Xfinity 10G network is made for streaming live sports, which means it's the network you can rely on in the biggest moments. The Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream your Warriors.
The future of joint pain relief is right here in the Bay Area, and that is QC Kinetics. Multiple locations. It is advanced regenerative medicine, and it is fantastic. Hey, it's Mark Willard. Look, I'm not into fake stuff. Don't like fake love. Don't like fake news. So why do fake? I've been having some issues with my back, with my leg, and this is the kind of thing that I want to learn more about. Long-lasting relief that goes to the very root of the problem to restore and repair damage within your body, as opposed to masking the issue. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. Doesn't that sound good? Life is about motion. So not only should you have more motion in your life, you should get into motion and call the local medical professionals, QC Kinetics, and get a free consultation today. As mentioned, multiple locations in the Bay. Call 877-70-REGEN. That's 877-70-REGEN. 877-70-REGEN. 877-70-REGEN.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-935-7144. 800-935-7144. 800-935-7144.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Cordelia RV Center is your trusted recreational vehicle dealer, and all our 2023 models must go. A family-owned business and one of the largest inventories in Northern California. You are sure to find the perfect RV at an exceptional price. Visit us in Fairfield or online at CordeliaRV.com.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
The show you've been waiting for is here. Hip Hop Made the Bay, starring Ice Cube, E40, The Loonies, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Warren G, Amanda Perez, and MC Magic, November 3rd at the SAP. Get tickets and info now at Ticketmaster for Hip Hop Made the Bay.
I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer Sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair's gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
My daughter is normally a little goofball. But after a bad night's sleep, she's too tired to be anything. That's why I trust Pure Z's Kids. Pure Z's Kids is mindfully formulated just for kids. Their non-habit forming, drug-free products help my daughter fall asleep naturally, giving her the rest to be her best.
I'm a dinosaur.
Her best dinosaur.
Pure Z's Kids, for ages 4 and up when needed. Explore our products at zquill.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
If you know what it and I wonder if you know what.
Now back to Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy, Sterling Bennett with you. Craig Valentino behind. Niners were able to keep this a close game defensively, despite the fact they were getting gashed over and over and over again, speaks to what Javier said, bend but don't break. They were also aided by a missed field goal by Greg Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings. If you're putting it on the Niners offense by saying, well, you just make a field goal, guess what? You're in this game. Minnesota makes an extra field goal. Guess what? It's an 8-point game instead of a 5-point game down the stretch. We can go both ways on this. And I think some of the other things with Steve Wilks are you just look at some of the strategy, and frankly, it didn't make a ton of sense. First of all, throughout much of the first half, Steve Wilks bringing the blitz. I am not just straight up opposed to blitzing. It's something the Niners have not done a lot of in the past. Doesn't mean I don't think it can work. Not a good thing. But what was happening in the first half when the Niners were blitzing Kirk Cousins? They were not getting to Kirk Cousins. And what happens when you blitz and you don't get home to the quarterback? You are asking your defensive backs to do something nearly impossible. Defend with only 4 or 5 guys dropping back in coverage for 5 seconds. You simply cannot do that. And the other thing was, Steve Wilks, when he's blitzing, you're expecting your pass rush to get to the quarterback. So what kind of passes are you expecting? Short passes, quick outs, slants, screens. And what were you doing? You were playing your cornerbacks and defensive backs 10 yards off of the receivers. You were giving them a soft cushion to pick up 6, 7, 8 yards for free every single time. Why are you blitzing but playing soft against the receivers? You got to press them. Get up on them man-to-man and make them earn it. Make the offensive line buy Kirk Cousins time and make them beat you over the top. And that's not even talking about the final play offensively for the Vikings in the first half. The one time when you shouldn't blitz is when you know Minnesota has to try to take a shot down the field. Why are you giving Mooney Ward against a speedster receiver? Yes, a rookie, but a speedster receiver who already burned him once for a touchdown. Why are you giving him no safety help? I'm not against Steve Wilks and his plan to blitz more than D'Amico Ryans ever did. I'm not against honestly, I wanted the Niners defense to blitz more in the past than what they would do. Mm-hmm. But when it's not working, when you're not getting home, and you're pairing that by playing extremely soft against the receivers, that just doesn't add up. What's the strategy there?
You're feeding into what the Vikings want.
Exactly. If you're going to blitz them, what does Kirk Cousins want? Get the ball out quick. And what is the Niners defense allowing them to do? Get the ball out quick. It's what TJ Hawkinson did all game.
Sounds like the exact opposite as to what the Niners offense did tonight. It was as if the game plan for both teams didn't really add up to what the Vikings like to do or can't do on defense or can't do on offense. It's almost as if Shanahan and Wilks made a game plan and said, we didn't look at any Vikings tape. We watched the Browns game last week and came in and said, we got this one in the bag. And again, players have to execute. No turnovers, they win this game. Couple field goals made, you win last week. It's not as if the Niners haven't played, or their performances, despite being how bad they are, they could have won the past 2 games. They easily could have won the past 2 games. The issue is that there's a coaching issue, and then you add in the execution issue. That's when you lose, and for 2 games in a row, when you're just not playing good football, when you're missing field goals, when you're now having your quarterback have turnovers, when your best player offensively is fumbling in the red zone, when your defense is giving up chunk plays, which they hadn't done the first 5 games of the year, you're going to lose. And through 2 games, it feels like there hasn't been a readjustment in 4 quarters. It feels like that when you think, okay, go down, get a touchdown, and you can make it 7-10. Great. You hope you can stop the Vikings offense. You hold them to a field goal at least, and you're fine. Then your defense, you blitz, you give up a touchdown, and you immediately after your offense just picked itself back up and got in the end zone and made this a game, your defense let you down. That's on Steve Wilks. That's just ignoring common sense. And right now, I feel like that goes on both players, or both head coaches and Wilks. It feels like both coaches are ignoring common sense.
And the other thing I think defensively that you can point to, it was less of a concern just in terms of the number today, but penalties have been an issue defensively as well. You look at the Niners against Cleveland, and this wasn't all defensive penalties, but a week ago in Cleveland, 12 penalties for 105 yards for the 49ers last time out. Today, penalties only 5 for 37, but they came in really important moments. They came on the final drive, which extended a drive, which added a few more yards. It was, I think, 2nd and 13 after a negative run, and there was an incompletion. But there was defensive holding. It's only a 5-yard penalty, but it erases the 2nd and 13, makes it an automatic first down. It led to a Vikings field goal. Who knows if the game shakes out differently if that penalty does not happen. And generally, I'm not saying this is always fair, when you have sloppiness from the defense, penalties, grabs, you have defensive holding, you have illegal touching, you have hands to the face, you got DPI. There was a DPI on Diamador Lenore in the end zone, very near the end zone in the first half.
Which defense made a great stop, helped him to a field goal.
Exactly. And then there was another one that probably should have been called on Mooney Ward later that did not get called. Maybe the Niners got away with one there. But generally, when you have that sort of sloppiness, who are you blaming?
Coaching.
Generally, yeah.
It's like Chris Paul. You coaching? Right now, Shanahan and Wilkes aren't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the Niners this year as a team, and I don't know if this includes tonight, lead the NFL in penalties. That's insane. A team
numbers of penalties or yards?
Well, I'll get there.
Uh-oh.
If this is as of tonight, the Niners have 50 total penalties. If it doesn't include tonight, they have 55, leading the NFL.
I'll try to look into this.
Yardage, again, if it doesn't include tonight, 421 yards given up on penalties. The second most in football. This team is playing undisciplined football. This team is, whether it's they're out of position, whether it's they just are making dumb penalties, I believe they lead the NFL in unnecessary roughness calls. Like, it feels like that this team is just playing out of control. And I don't know if it's just a lack of coaching. I don't know if it's you just saying, you guys know how to play, go out there and do it. This team needs a reset button. Yeah, they're 5-2. Giving up 19 and 22 points the past 2 games. There's reason to still believe in them. They won 5 games in a row and crushed the Cowboys, who are a good team on national television. There's reason to buy into what the San Francisco 49ers have to offer and how far they can go. But through 7 games, they're 5-2. They are 2-2 on the road, and they've lost their last 2 games and are the most penalized team in the entire NFL.
And I can confirm that these 5 penalties have been included in that count.
Okay.
So 50 penalties through 7 games for 421 yards. That includes today.
That's 7 penalties a game on average.
Interestingly enough, the defense hasn't been penalized as much as I would have thought. Today, 3 of the 5 penalties were on the defense. Think back to last week against Cleveland, 12 total penalties, only 3 against the defense last week against Cleveland as well. So maybe it's not quite as bad as I'm remembering it, but the point still stands. In key moments, you're making some of those penalties that are extending drives and leading to points, or at the very least, taking more time off the clock and making it a little more difficult on your offense. Even if, say, the Vikings didn't get points out of their final drive. Say Greg Joseph missed that field goal, but the penalty still extended the drive and took more time off the clock. The Niners would have needed a field goal, but guess what? They were still battling the clock. The interception came at the 40-yard line and would have been a 57-yard field goal at that point. Makeable by Moody, but also certainly missable. They would have needed more, and clock was becoming an issue. They had time, certainly, to get within field goal range. But even if it didn't result in points, those penalties are still hurting your offense because you're putting them in a more difficult situation with less time on the clock. So I think the point still stands about the penalties, and I think the larger point about the defense, and specifically about the game plan of the defense, I think is fair game across the board, despite what Javier and Vacaville argued a few minutes ago. And I really appreciated his argument and his intensity and his passion, but I get the 22 points thing. 22 points, that's a great number. If the Niners allow 22 points a game for the rest of the year,
should be enough to win.
It should be enough to win almost every single game that they play.
And
And it has been up to this point.
If Jake Moody makes a field goal tonight, early in the game, it's a 2-point game again.
But just because you only allowed 22 points does not mean this was a good day defensively. It was the worst day defensively that this team has had in a very long time.
It's not just points. It really doesn't come down to points. It's getting off the field on third down. They couldn't do that. This for one of the few times the past 4 or 5 years, it feels like this Niners defense is playing or has played on its heels. At least tonight it certainly did. Against Kirk Cousins, who's a fine quarterback. He's kind of the epitome of average. He'll do some nice things, but usually isn't the reason you're going to win. And it's more frustrating knowing the Vikings don't like to run the football. So,
as an Alexander Madison fantasy owner, I feel that.
But it almost allows San Francisco to say, our biggest weakness being run defense isn't going to be exposed tonight. And it really wasn't. Kirk Cousins beat the Niners. I can argue.
Kirk Cousins was great tonight.
Pretty perfect. Purdy perfect.
I'm out on that.
But it was I knew that. I knew the Vikings don't want to run the football. I knew they didn't have Justin Jefferson. I knew they're going to target T.J. Hawkinson. I knew that. And what do? Sit on my butt all day and go, how do I prep for the Niners and Vikings podcast I'm going to do later this week? Oh, if I know that, why don't the coaches being paid to stop it know that?
I think what would fix a lot of the issues, and I've seen it on the YouTube chat, Never Go Full Jeff has pointed this out, and I feel the same way. I think
Never Go Full Jeff, man. That's his name.
It's his name. I think what a lot of the defensive issues stem from is that this defense is just not producing negative plays right now. And a lot of that is the lack of sacks. No sacks today. And this goes back to Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead in the middle of the defense as well. This defense was so great last year and years past, first down, second down, getting a sack and putting a defense on third and long. And then you can drop back 6, 7. You can drop back 7 into coverage, rush only 4, and you can still make it difficult on an opponent. You're not getting negative plays. Instead of the defense facing a 3rd and 8, you're facing a 3rd and 3, and it's an easy conversion. Not easy, but easier for the offense. I think if this pass rush is able to pick it up, and yeah, you could talk about the scheme and maybe some of the strategic decisions as I laid out a little bit ago that I didn't frankly agree with and I'm frankly confused by with the 49ers. But so much of this is solved if Nick Bosa just gets home to the quarterback like he did last year for much of the season. So much of this is solved if that happens. Until that happens, you're asking everyone else on the defense to be just that much better. And while they're probably capable of playing better, because I don't think anyone had a great game by any means, they're probably capable of playing better. But if that doesn't happen, if you're not getting to the quarterback, you're not going to have many games where you're going to allow 1 for 8 on third downs. You're going to keep an opponent to only 220 yards of total offense. You're going to keep them at 13 points. If you're not getting to the quarterback in today's NFL, it's just simply that much more difficult than everyone else. And if that does not begin happening on a relatively consistent basis, this could be an issue for the long term.
They're not going to go to the Super Bowl. They're not.
You need a consistent pass rush.
They're not going to beat the Eagles.
They might not beat the Seahawks.
Okay. That actually hurt my feelings a little bit, but it does feel like San Francisco has kind of found themselves at a crossroads, which you wouldn't assume being 5-2, but it shouldn't be too much to ask from Nick Bosa, who had 18.5 sacks last year, to get you 1, to get you 2 every couple weeks. I mean, and I can argue one of the sacks he's had was kind of a freebie against the Giants. It's not as if
no one blocked him.
Right.
He was untouched.
And then you have Javon Hargrave, who had 10+ sacks last year. The whole talking point was Niners need a receiver. They need a right tackle. And John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said, no, we're going to beef up our defensive line.
And if you do that, the defensive line has better bring it every single game, and they have not yet.
No.
The Niners made a very, very risky bet, and to this point, it has not paid off.
Go even further. So you lose DeMeco Ryans, you bring in Wilkes. That hasn't looked great. It's not been bad, but tonight wasn't great. Hasn't looked great so far, right? It's been good, not great. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
Isaiah Oliver's been fine, not Jimmy Ward.
He's been better lately. Honestly, I've been impressed.
Yeah, but he's been a step down, I would say,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
You're bringing Hargrave. You ain't done much, right?
He's been fine.
He's been fine, but not been what you paid for. And you paid Bosa. Then you can draft Jake Moody. I'm not saying that these things can't be corrected or they're all mistakes.
And you didn't go get another tackle.
Right. And tonight, I will not say that had Robbie Gould been here, you win the past 2 games. Anything could happen. He's missed field goals in the past, albeit not very often.
They're not trotting out Robbie Gould for the 55-yarder Jake Moody made. That's for sure.
And had they gone for a 57-yarder, which Jake Moody may have missed, but
he's also made from 57 this year.
That Robbie Gould's missing that by 10 yards. But
they're not even attempting it. Is the thing.
No, they're like Purdy,
they're
50 yards downfield.
They're trying to draw defense off sides, and they're taking a 5-yard penalty and punting.
They would
is what they're
let
doing.
Kyle Juszczyk make that kick before Robbie Gould, probably. But it does feel like that some of the risks or some of the moves they have made, that whether it's a kicker or signing a premier edge rusher or defensive tackle, hasn't paid off just yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but through 7 games, it does feel like that a lot of the bigger, riskier, elite, player moves they've made just haven't paid off. And when you're in a year where you gotta win, you need those moves to pay off, and they haven't just yet.
They haven't just yet. The team is still 5-2. The sky is not falling. I'll stick to that, but it is concerning. A couple of losses against teams that you should beat, even if they are at full strength, and they were not at full strength. So concerning for sure. End of the world. Sky is falling. I'm not there yet, but plenty to be worried about if you're a 49er fan. We want to hear from you. We've got 1 segment left here on Overtime. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. Martin and Robin, I see you. We'll get to you on the other side. It's Overtime here with Grandy and Sterling on 95.7 The Game. We're back with more after this.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC. Or technology project, then I would highly recommend American
Now back to Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Overtime continues. One final segment here on 95.7 The Game. If you want to get in, join myself and Sterling. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. You heard from Kyle Shanahan right there reacting to his team's loss to the Minnesota Vikings, 22-17, the final score. He said his team's got to take this loss like a man. And guess what? You got to forget about this one because you've got another game coming up 6 days from now. When you wake up tomorrow back home in San Francisco in the Bay Area, 5 days from now.
It's going to rain tomorrow,
I don't know.
I like when it rains. Sorry, I just...
Okay. Thanks, Sterling.
Sorry, just thinking about it. I was wondering.
And you have a Bengals team coming off of a bye, and you have now a 1 day shorter week to prepare for a good football team. This is a tough time for the Niners. This is going to test them. I mean, they were tested last year in the regular season. They faced adversity early. They were tested a lot last year with all the injuries at quarterback. This is we're going to find out what this team is made of, what this iteration of the Niners is made of, based on how they react to these two losses coming home against a high-profile team. Yes, that isn't playing the best to start the year, but a high-profile team with a great quarterback, one of the best wide receivers in the league. They have a pretty good front as well. Their defensive line can get after the quarterback.
It's a good defense. Really good defense.
Really, and off a bye, and you have a short week. This is going to be interesting.
Let me ask you this, and I get it 6 days away now. If San Francisco loses 3 games in a row, falls to 5-3, let's say Seattle loses next week too. They go into the bye week, same record, or 1 game ahead of Seattle. How do you feel?
I feel like they're going to have to make a trade to the deadline, which is, I think, Halloween Day.
What is that move? Everyone's saying, go get Devontae Adams, go trade for this guy and that guy. Like, what is that? Is it an offensive move to help spark the offense and get you out of this 17-point rut? Is it you got to get a cornerback? Like, it doesn't feel like there is, like, right now, the way the NFL has kind of found itself and fallen, it's like there's a couple good teams, there's a bunch of mediocre teams that think they have a chance, and there's a bunch of bad teams. But those bad teams don't really have a piece you might want. Like, the Titans make sense. The Vikings beat us tonight. They're not trading nobody now. They're like, we're going to go beat the Lions, whatever.
And they're 3-4. They're back in the playoff hunt now.
All right, let's not go that far.
They are.
And Jared Goff's the MVP, right?
I mean, until what happened in Baltimore, that was looking pretty good, was it not?
It was.
I'll give you some credit for that one.
It was good for, 6 weeks?
He could
so
recover.
The Niners 5, but
he can rebound. I mean, the one name that a ton of people are throwing out is Pat Surtain.
If you're the Broncos, do you make that move?
I mean, it depends what the Niners are offering you in return, obviously. But
if you're San Francisco,
you're doing nothing this year.
If you're San Francisco, what do you think you need? Do you need to go get another edge rusher? You just traded for one 2 weeks ago.
I don't think you need an edge rusher. I don't think you need weapons offensively. If you're
maybe a receiver, but
maybe. If you're acquiring someone, for me, I think it's defensive back or right tackle.
Interesting.
Or maybe a new swing tackle who can play multiple positions who you feel a little bit more comfortable in than Jalen Moore.
Daniel Brunskill is in Tennessee. He was great.
Maybe.
There is a name that, I hope I'm saying the name correctly, Pierce Evans on the YouTube chat by First NorCal Credit Union says, and I put it on Twitter today. And it's kind of a weird one.
Oh, I'm seeing this now.
It's out of the box.
I wish I didn't look because I would never have guessed it.
And I'm not going to say they should do this. And I would get why you would say don't do it because of who they have already on the team. But when I think of a Shanahan offense, I think of running the football. You have Christian McCaffrey banged up currently. You have somebody who, you'd like to get the ball 15, maybe 20 times a game, but can be utilized maybe better ways than just running the football. Tonight was an example of that. Why not call Tennessee about Derrick Henry? I'm not saying that's the only move you make or really the right move to make, knowing what the team needs, but I do think that Derrick Henry, I believe it's his last year of his contract, averaging near 4 yards a pop. Elijah Mitchell sucks. You're not going to use Jordan Mason. And if you can't get a Patrick Surtain, which I would, yes, obviously agree, if you can get that player, bring him in here. That would be the A1 steak sauce of player you want to acquire.
I'm not even thinking about acquiring a running back.
Why not, though?
It's already a position of strength.
And McCaffrey's already hurt.
I don't need to add to that position group.
Why not? You don't have anybody behind him. And even if it's not Derrick Henry, they're not going to use Jordan Mason. They have, $41 million in cap space.
They have the ability to go out and make any move they want to.
And if they don't want to extend Brandon Ayuk, why not go all out? If you are that into Brock Purdy.
The cap space this year has nothing to do with Ayuk, the ability to keep Ayuk.
Well, you can roll it over to
some
free
of
up
it.
Space. Most of it. All of it, actually.
You can roll over all of it?
Pretty sure, yeah. Or at least the majority of it. It's not like you... Trading for Derrick Henry wouldn't hurt your team. In fact, it would help your team.
Of course not.
And it's talking about tush push. You watch Derrick Henry do a tush push.
I mean, Purdy converted the 4th and 1.
He didn't the first time.
He didn't convert 3rd and 1, but he did 4th and 1. He did 2 tries to get it.
But like, if there's a position group on the team, you said right tackle. I haven't looked. So
I'd have to do a little more digging.
I have no idea who's trading a starting caliber right tackle right now. The Broncos, you ain't give him a Glynchy back. You just let him go.
Well, you're not paying him that contract.
Like maybe Daniel Brunskill, who again been here for the past handful of years, played, I believe, was one of the starting tackles. McGlinchey and Staley both went down in 2019. So there is history here. He's worked well. You can cut Matt Pryor, who is booty. There are small moves to make. But if you look at it and you go, $41 million in cap space, but the Broncos won't give us Surtain, who else is there?
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like...
The market will continue to change. We're now 8 days away from the deadline.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't feel like that there is like that move to make where it'll just fix everything or it'll improve the team entirely where you're like, man, like, yes, I would love to have a 4th cornerback that can actually play nickel if Oliver stinks. I would love to have a swing tackle. I would love to have another backup running back if they're not going to use Mason. I would love to have another safety.
That's where Surtain comes in.
I mean, yeah, but if I'm Denver, I'm not trading him. Why would you move your best defensive player when you have Russell Wilson? Like,
it depends if the Niners are willing to part with. I mean, they're going absolutely nowhere, and they're not going anywhere for a while.
But you would trade Jerry Jeudy, who obviously isn't the fit and is trying to fight Smith on the sideline.
Yeah, that's bad.
Or Cortland Sutton. Like, there are veteran players you would trade, not a 23-year-old star cornerback you got 2 years ago in the first round.
Yeah.
That's somebody you call as a cornerstone piece. Like, there doesn't feel like the move to make. But
maybe not.
Maybe Derrick Henry makes some sense.
Maybe. I don't know about that one. That's probably a conversation for a different day.
That'd be a lot of fun.
We could talk about it when we get to that point. The question was, what happens if they lose to the Bengals? Yeah. That's where my mind goes.
Then you got to get Derrick Henry.
They haven't lost to the Bengals yet. So I'm going to put that on the back burner for now.
They can easily win 35-31 against the Bengals, and you're like, oh, 6-2.
Get a little bit of home cooking going easily that they could rebound from that,
home
but we will
is
see.
Great. I had some chicken last night. Oh.
There you go.
Thanks, Mom.
It is a challenge.
Love
it is because you're coming off of a short week, and the Bengals are coming off of a bye. And the Bengals, despite their record, I still would argue a very good football team. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but let's go right now back to the phones.
Who is it? Tell me.
Up next is Martin from Raleigh, North Carolina. Martin, you're on overtime here with Grandy and Sterling on 95.7 The Game. What's up, Martin? What'd you think of that Niners loss today?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Hopefully you guys are doing good.
Been better.
Actually, it's Brawley, California. If you guys know, Sergio Romo from the Giants, his hometown, Brawley, California, over here.
Oh, Brawley. Sorry about
really
that.
Messed that one up. Sorry.
No problem. Just a couple states away, but you guys are good, man. Definitely not here to give you guys any trouble. We're here for the Niners, right?
Amen.
And first of all, man, I sat here and watched this game. And first of all, we'll start with the defense. Of course, everything that you guys have been talking about the entire show ever since the game ended. Pretty much one of the things that I saw, and I'm pretty sure that you guys feel as well, hopefully, is I get terrified, man, when I see an opposing quarterback throw a ball towards Mooney Ward or towards Diamador Lenore, because if their wide receiver doesn't catch it, it's almost for sure a PI. Either they're holding, it's illegal contact. Something's going on with the defensive backs, and I think, just like you guys were saying, if Patrick Surtain is, up in the trade block and we can get him, I think that's the way to go, man. Not necessarily saying that we should completely give up on Lenore, and of course we're not going to give up on Mooney Ward because we traded for him last year from Kansas City. But something has to happen, man. These guys are a little bit too over their heads. They think they're unbeatable, and they rely too much on our front line and our linebackers, and as soon as the ball passes them, they're a very big liability, man. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing it the same way that I am, but I'm pretty terrified whenever I see the ball go past Fred Warner. If Fred Warner doesn't stop it, I know sure as hell Mooney Ward isn't going to stop it. Aside from that, very good interception in the beginning of the game, but after that, it was nothing from him.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Are we at a point where we're concerned about Mooney Ward? I'm not sure I'm there yet. I'm more concerned about everyone else in the defensive secondary.
He wasn't great tonight.
He was not.
But I do think that, take 2019. That secondary was a lot of unproven players. You had Sherman being the star, but coming off the Achilles injury, second year in San Francisco. Then you had undrafted Emmanuel Mosley, who has bloomed into something, now hurt again this year, unfortunately. Yeah. You had Jimmy Ward, who was playing cornerback for 3 years and moved to safety, and you weren't really sure what you're going to get from him. Then you had K'Wan Williams playing nickel, who was I believe, a waiver pickup from the Browns, who bounced around for a handful of years. Then you had Jaquiski Tart. It wasn't like you had this amazing secondary, but what aided them? What helped them not have to be perfect all game? What helped the linebackers? What helped again, rather on paper, not great secondary look pretty darn good? Pass rush. You had D Ford and Bosa and Buckner and Armstead and others along the lines that were doing their job day in, day out, play in, play out. This Niners defense has 15 sacks this year. 15. That's not going to cut it over.
About 2 a game.
It's not great. When you look at last year's defense, I believe they had, 48 sacks? It's not like, 44 sacks, and I believe 48 in 2021. They're not on pace for that same number. They're halfway through the year. And
almost.
It's right, but it's funny enough that if they don't pick things up, they're going to finish right around where a Steve Wilkes defense finishes in sacks. 38, 35.
Despite the fact that he blitzes more than the Niners have in the past.
That's a problem. And you can kind of sense that, they had a luxury of when they had D'Amico Ryans, where they could promote from the inside. A person that knew the system, that knew the players, that essentially added a few more wrinkles to improve what was already there from Robert Saleh. You're bringing in someone who's entirely new, where you've added a new defensive tackle in Hargrave. Then you're adding in Nick Bosa, who wasn't there the entire offseason program, which his words tonight, well, maybe I'm reading too much into it, felt as if he's questioning the pass rush a little bit.
Seemed frustrated, for sure.
And he's not questioning, I don't think, himself. I'm sure production-wise he's not happy, but it felt as if he's questioning how they're being used. And you can kind of tell that it's not just that we didn't play good. It's that maybe we aren't being used the right way. And it's tough for a defense that has, is used to playing under a Saleh Ryan's defense, now having to kind of, I don't want to say relearn, but having to change how they play for a Wilkes defense that isn't reliant on pass rush and sacks.
Well, and that was the big thing. When the Niners were on their defensive coordinator search, they decided to not promote from within like they had the last 2 times, and they decided we're going to go out and get someone from outside the building. And a big sticking point for Shanahan and company was, when they interviewed all these guys, Steve Wilkes included, was, you're running our system.
Yeah.
You're not bringing your system here. You're running what we're used to running. You are adjusting to us. Now, there will be some slight adjustments. Again, like Steve Wilkes likes to blitz more than D'Amico Ryans has, than Robert Saleh ever has. That's a slight change, but you're still running the Niners system, and maybe it hasn't gone as smoothly as the Niners had hoped it would go. And perhaps there is, not a come-to-Jesus moment, but a sit-down discussion where, hey, we got to get back to our bread and butter and what has worked for us in the past. Maybe the addition of Javon Hargrave is changing things and what the skill set is that we can't quite see on the surface, but it is something to certainly keep an eye on. All right, we've got 3 phone calls we want to get to here. We got less than 10 minutes left here on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. So I'm coming to all 3 of you quickly. Robin and then Villain and Dennis, we're coming to you here to wrap up Overtime. Robin, you're up first. We got to go quickly here, Robin. You're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What'd you think of today's game, Robin?
So I'm coming to all three of you quickly. Robin, and then
Robin.
Radio.
Robin. Oh, I'm sorry, Robin. You missed your chance. All right, let's go to Villain from Hayward. Villain, you're on overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What's up?
Hey, just wanted to let you guys know, right now, the talk is adorable. Don't get me wrong. But the truth is, it's on the linebackers. They were trying to hit, not tackle.
I agree.
They were trying to light somebody up and not take them down. It's on the linebackers. They were not good in pass protect. They were not good in covering the not only the wide receivers, but not only covering the tight ends. They were not good today. It wasn't on the line, wasn't on the DBs. I blame the linebackers. The fact that you guys are just negligible in even lighting them up, I'm going to light you up. It's on you guys to put them on blast. Warner, Burks, Greenlaw, Flanagan, Faust, whoever our linebackers were, it's on them today. The first touchdown, on them. The fact that they weren't stopping the run, on them. The missed tackles, on them. That's all I got to say. Have a good night.
Say, I'm sorry, sir. Appreciate the call, Villain. I would say, considering that Greenlaw was back, that unit wasn't as good as I thought. I thought Fred Warner was the best player on defense tonight. But, I mean...
I don't know. I mean, I get what he's saying. Like, for a linebacker, you are essentially the last line of defense when it comes to stopping a rushing attack.
Or
right?
tight end over the middle, and T.J.
Which
Hawkinson was good.
They did neither. They couldn't tackle Cam Akers, who they had stopped the previous 3 years in Los Angeles. They couldn't stop Alexander Madison. They couldn't stop Tyson Chandler. It felt as if whatever.
Well, Madison didn't do much.
He did more than he usually does. They got 5.8 yards a pop in this game. The Vikings don't want to run.
5.8 yards per...
As a team.
On the ground?
I believe so, yes.
3.5.
It's too much.
3.5 yards per carry.
Madison or the entire team?
The entire team.
Okay.
21 carries for 74 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. The run defense was fine.
It's not great.
It wasn't great, but it's not like they were getting gashed. The Vikings went away from it. Look at what Kirk Cousins threw the ball 45 times in a game they scored 22 points.
Yeah.
The run game was not an issue.
But again, you're giving up 74 yards on the ground to the Vikings who do not want to run. There's screen passes here. There's dump offs. You have to tackle.
No, I'm not letting Fred Warner and Drew Greenlaw off the hook for allowing T.J. Hawkinson to go off over the middle,
which they've been
11 for 86
years. Yeah, I do wonder, going back to Wilkes though, the fact that DeMeco Ryans was a linebackers coach, played linebacker for a handful of years in Houston and Philadelphia, worked with Johnny Holland and Fred Warner and Greenlaw and helped improve their careers, make them who they are today. Steve Wilkes is a defensive backs coach, and being at training camp, being at practice, being at OTAs, he wasn't talking to the D-line. It was just Chris Kosaric and Darryl Tapp. He wasn't talking to linebackers. He was talking to Lenore and Mooney Ward and Avery Thomas and Oliver. He very much had his hands all over the secondary. Well, now we're at a point where the secondary has their hands all over offensive players on opposing teams. It's not as if, for the penalties the secondary currently has, yes, you can point to the defensive line not getting pressure on the quarterback, sure. But it does feel as if that the secondary issues do fall on Steve Wilkes and only Steve Wilkes.
That's fair. Yeah, I think so. And I mean, again, a lot of this is solved if the rush just gets to Kirk Cousins. It did not today, and it has not for much of this season. And it's a big reason why the Niners have lost their last two games. All right, one more call to get to here on Overtime, and then we'll hand out game balls, slim pickings, I think, for game balls today. Maybe we got to give someone to the Vikings. We can talk about that coming up after Dennis in Richmond joins the show. Dennis, you're our last call of Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Take us home. Dennis, what'd you think of that Niners game today?
Oh, man, gentlemen, first of all, I want to say thank you for bringing up all the points I really wanted to bring up. Dude, honestly, I would say from the get-go, it's actually, you know what? Even right before the season started, I thought, and I told my friends this thing too, I thought the defense was going to be the more, how can I say this, the more, unsure thing that we can expect, to expect, or the more unstable part of the Niners this year. Because look, think about it, our corners were never good this whole time since the Kyle Shanahan era, right? not only that, we always had an issue with our DBs not able to protect the biggest players against us, and not only that. Sorry, hold on.
Hey, Dennis, appreciate the call. We got to get going here, and turn your radio down in the background. During every pause from Dennis, we could hear him his point from 12 seconds ago come back over through the air. Sorry about that, Dennis. We just got to get rolling here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It definitely is there's a different vibe to the defense right now. I think that's what Dennis was getting at a little bit. It just feels
like Future. It's a vibe. Or is that 2 Chainz? I don't know who it is anyways.
Well, it's like what you were saying earlier. Confidence in the offense versus the defense. Despite the offense the last 2 games, bad performances, consecutive games, I still feel like I have a little bit more faith in the offense at this point than the defense, which is kind of interesting. I would not have expected that at this point of the season. All right, really quickly, we got to do game balls. We've done it for every game so far this year. Most of them have been wins. This is the first time you're handing out game balls this year for a loss.
Who got them last week? I wasn't listening. Sorry.
Who did Evan and I give them out to? We gave some to the Browns. I think we gave one to. Did we give one to PJ Walker? We definitely gave one.
I hope not.
I mean, it was okay.
Jerome Ford was easily the pick, or Myles Garrett.
I think we gave one to Myles Garrett. I'll go first. I think I gotta go to the Vikings. Okay. Kirk Cousins was amazing. 35 for 45, 378, 2 touchdowns, only 1 turnover. It came on the first drive. After that, he was perfect. Number 1 reason why the Vikings won. Kirk Cousins. He gets my game ball.
I don't know who to pick, man. Maybe if I'm going to go Minnesota, Cameron Bynum, those 2 picks, 2 pivotal picks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair to unfair to him, thrown right to him. but you get 2 picks, essentially 2 game-sealing interceptions.
On the 2 biggest drives of the game.
Yeah, like he came up big. For San Francisco, maybe you say Juwan Jennings was really good today. Probably had his best game of the year. 5 catches, 54 yards, 10.8 yards a catch. And George Kittle was also really good today.
I was going to say George Kittle. Yeah, 5 for 78 after he had 1 catch for 1 yard last week. 5 for 78. Yeah, thanks, Kirk. I mean, I came into this game, I told you guys both, Craig and Sterling, I thought Kittle was going to have at least 6 catches, at least 90 yards, and a tud. I fell short on all 3 accounts.
Guys, he's only 1 catch away.
And guess what? He didn't get another catch the rest of the game. Come on, George.
TJ Hawkinson stole the show because Steve Wilkes let him.
TJ Hawkinson, the better Iowa tight end? Is that what we're learning?
Right. Show's over. You can
All right, that'll do it for overtime today here on 95.7 The Game. Niners fall to the Vikings 20. Whoa.
Bruce Bochy, give him a shout out. Come on.
Shout out, Boch. On to the World Series again.
Buddy!
Maybe against the Diamondbacks.
Lightweight!
Diamondbacks also forced a Game 7. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow on 95.7 The Game. Tomorrow is also Warriors season opener. We're excited for that. Kevin Durant coming to town. Should be a ton of fun, but it is, of course, reacting to a Niners loss. That'll be all day tomorrow on 95.7 The Game. For now, though, that'll do it for us, for Craig behind the glass, for Cam running around here somewhere in the studio. Thanks so much to both those guys. For Sterling, my name is Mark, signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in. Niners fall 22-17, back-to-back losses for the Niners. They host the Bengals 6 days from now at home, trying to get back in the win column. For now, though, this is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great night.
For today's show and tell, I present my phone. It's made with glass and various metals I can't pronounce. It's powered by Xfinity Mobile, so my family saves big. Take a handout.
Colin, what are these?
I'm